That's on me, ayy. All chained up, he on lockdown. He find God now. On my way up. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Any day could've been dead. High school price on my head. Paranoid lying in my bed. Pray to God they don't turn my shirt cherry. I was lost, didn't know me. Introduced myself to codeine. 6 months was a dope fiend. Philly didn't even know things. There was a low me. Swear to God it would've hold me. Everything you ever told me. Everything you ever showed me. I forgot it. Caused me drama. I used to stay on one. Now I changed on them. The highs with the lows. That's life these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Hit the highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. I just saw Jizzy got a plane. Guess that's what he meant when he said nothing was the same. Lately I've been grounded, energizing off the pain. Some things gon' change, I'm just soaking up the game. Through the mud, out the rain, like I remember all those same nights. Now I'm on top, no stage fright. Now I'm on go, no brake lights. Hit the pedal, hit the engine roar. No fear like a matador. Breaking trends and I'm making more. Going up, climbing ladders more. I can't be stopped. Now I do what I want. Real, no front. All the way to the top. Highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Hit the highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't it out. I keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. Told me, baby, meet me at the bank. Told me, mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you could never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop, pop 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Play full belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I want it all. I keep God first. I see evil, I evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peep, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like whoa, that money clip us now the new now looks like whoa, upgrade her diamonds now her girlfriends are like whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip, neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib, neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick, neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way, I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since a fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like whoa, that money clip us now the new now looks like whoa, upgrade her diamonds now her girlfriends are like whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like whoa, that money clip us now the new now looks like whoa, upgrade her diamonds now her girlfriends are like whoa, 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 whoa. On my own, no fixer. I'm gon' ball, no picker. That I ate those, they live for. Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats fun splitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. For place, big stakes, my dinner. Flip that, Canal Street, flip back. Last week, old money, this week, new racks. Never buy none more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stunning in your foreign car. You keep riding rental tags. Heard you roll the gasoline, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, this pocket shit. Rubber bands on my arm, this is not for play. I put 20 on the crib while you cop a chain. I know they hated to love it. You know I love when they hate it. Last year was living basic. No. Haters on the other side. 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some maintenance with me. Made it through some evil time. Late night on some demon time. Pour this bright, I need love. I can't see the line. Free time. Brainstorm, you You can assume with your chains on. I can see none with the lights off. Cap, you been the main one. Coolin' when I got my mains on. Show money.
Fate is before you. Choose wisely.
Use the Force, Luke. Let go.
Fire for your mind. The kosher clinician. Use the Force, Luke, was an epic term that was used in the past by George Lucas in his classic film called Star Wars. In group therapy, we talk about 3 or 8 major elements that are paramount to the functioning of a group. There are 3 elements that I've identified in group therapy that have been more or less needed in the black community or black spaces. And those 3 elements more or less adhere to being cathartic, universality of brotherhood, but also altruism and being dedicated to the group. The Bible said that in the multitude of counselors there is safety. And men have safety when they're able to come together and set aside their differences for the sake of the brotherhood. Is there a universality in brotherhood when men are able to use the Force like Luke Skywalker did when he was more or less heralded by elders in his community that gave him power not to turn anger and hate into something that could have been detriment to his future? Because many young men don't have mentors in America. Many are not able to more or less use what's called the Force. And while the Force is a connotation that was used in Eastern mysticism or Eastern theology, the Force can be used when men come together like the wild bull elephants that were part of an experiment from the past. What happens when men use the Force to fight feminism? What happens when men use the Force to fight ego? What happens when men use the Force to look at the things that have been used to destroy black men and heteronormative masculinity? In this show, we're going to explore the dynamics by the lead attorney and Kevin Samuels as they look at some of the shenanigans of April Mason. And I told you guys from the last show that I did that many women that appear to be advocates for black men really are saboteurs and more or less are seeking to gain or exploit the movement that black men are beginning to use in American men to empower black men and American men at epic proportions. I want you guys to use this show and to understand the dynamics of having power and unity and learn how to set aside our differences for the sake of the brotherhood. And while the greatest nemesis that more or less impacted Darth Vader was his ego, ego is something that we all struggle with as men because men by nature want power. I want you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. Understanding male physical health and male mental health as it coalesces with female psychology is paramount to the functioning of a man, but also paramount to the functioning of a brotherhood. Be well. We're about to start, and we're going to talk about the power of the Force. Guys, I need you guys to listen, share the content. I need you guys, the 9 that are watching, share the content as we're about to get it cracking. When men work together as a team, we can deny the Force or overcome the Force that lies within. Many times the Force is those unconscious things that we've been through in the past, whether it be with relationships, family, or the gynocentric system that we live in. But many times, many men can't overstand or more or less overcome the issues with the Force because they have not done the corrective action or the corrective therapy to get those things changed. So we're about to start the show, guys. Let's get it cracking and get your pen and papers out. Let's get it. to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures, and whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind, but before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles. All right, we're about to start. And so before we start this show, I want to tell the nine that are listening to thank you. I really thank you and appreciate the support that I've been getting. And I really appreciate what everyone has been doing as we try to move this show forward. As a licensed clinical therapist, my show seeks to empower men as we're more or less part of a virtual barbershop where men from all over the world and from different areas come together to share their pain through what I call a catharsis. A catharsis is when men share their emotions or their pains from the past. And in the clinical world, we call it the emoting of the American male, or the emoting of unresolved emotions and unresolved pain. But tonight, guys, we're going to have a show tonight more or less talking about the Force. Now, if you guys know anything about Luke Skywalker, the Force was either good or bad. It was easier to go to the dark side instead of going to the light side. The dark side of the Force symbolizes undiscipline. But the light side of the Force, guys, symbolize discipline, pain, and hurt. The lead attorney did a show once again as a rebuttal, him and Kevin Samuels, talking about almost like in the Star Wars movie, how the dark side actually came back and attacked the light. And as Luke Skywalker told, as Obi-Wan Kenobi taught Luke Skywalker, he told him to use the Force. Many men have not learned how to use the Force to deal with the pain that they've dealt with. The Force could be the brotherhood. The Force could be those areas or those parts of their life that needs to be corrected through therapy. But many times, because therapy is seen as a stigma in the black community, many times men don't take the wherewithal or take the proper conditioning to get the help that they need. We're going to use this show to let people know that therapy is powerful for black men. And one of the greatest nemesis that is impacting black men sometimes can be the ego. We're going to talk about the ego, because all men have an ego, including myself. Men by nature want to win. Every man that's listening to this show tonight is a manifestation of that sperm cell that lived. Out of 1 million sperm cells, if you're listening to this show tonight, it means that you were competitive and you won. But just like you won while you was in your father's canal or seminal duct sac, and as you won when you was in your mother's womb, you got to win the war called life and the attrition of life. And there are many forces coming against you as black men that's going to hinder you from doing the things that you need to do. So we're going to go and more or less give an explorative analysis about the show that Kevin Samuels and the lead attorney did a while ago. We're going to talk about the force that's impacting you as a man, whether it be the dark side or the light side. We're going to talk about the force of the gynocentric system that a lot of men have been impacted by. We're going to talk about the force from childhood. Some men use the force for good, through discipline, through patience, through brotherhood. Just like Jedis were used to ground new Jedis on the ways of the Force, some men turn to the dark side. And when men turn to the dark side, guess what? They can become dangerous. As I said in the past, that a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. So we're going to get into the formalities of the show in a few. But we're going to talk about what are the 8 stages of group therapy. The first stage of group therapy, guys, is something called the universality of brotherhood. You might say, what do you mean by that? Universality is the pain that all men have been through and are going through. When you come to these spaces, it's men coming together sharing their pain. They sharing their hurts. And many times, many men in these spaces do something called taking notes. They've taken notes to talk about the hurt and the pain that they've been through. That's why these spaces are becoming more and more popular, because many men are beginning to share their pain. They're beginning to take notes, and they're beginning to realize that some of the things they've been through, other men have been through. Now listen, guys, most therapists, when they more or less enunciate or share the therapeutic process, they're not doing it through the universality of brotherhood. They're doing it through something called the feminist theory lens, which basically says or more or less juxtaposes that women should more or less use politics or whatever resource they can use to help them deal with the struggles that they've been having. It's defined as the belief in the social, political, economic quality of the sexes. The goal of the feminist theory therapists was to challenge the inequalities that women are facing with on a daily basis. But when you go into many therapeutic practices, they're not talking about ways to empower black men. They're not talking about ways to empower men, because many see men or black men as the adversaries to their pain. But here's the caveat to that. Black men never had power to oppress our women. We never had it. And so what you're seeing there, guys, is the emoting of black men. You're seeing the emoting of all men beginning to share their pain. So when you guys come to the Kosher Clinician, when you guys go on other men's platforms, you're seeing men come together to share their pain based on the hurts of the past, unresolved trauma, unresolved relationships, more or less coming to that what's called red pill rage or red pill moment when they begin to see things for what it is. Now listen, Kubler-Ross talked about there are 5 stages of grief that all people go through. The first stage of grief is they deny. Many men are in denial about the women that they thought were sugar and spice and everything nice. They're in denial. The next stage is they're in anger. They're angry once they come to the realization that what they thought was a great, noble, and virtuous woman really is an illusion or a facade of what they've been taught. Many have been taught to assuage or more or less Every man must go to his own respective level of healing. Wow, I didn't realize, guys, I had it. Wow, I said a lot. So let's go back. So there's a universality of brotherhood, guys. I'm sorry, I apologize. There's a universality of brotherhood. I had the mic on mute. I apologize, guys. And as I was saying earlier, one theory is the feminist theory lens, which basically says that feminism is defined as the belief in social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. The goal of feminism is to challenge the systematic inequalities women face on a daily basis. That's the feminist theory level of therapy. But in our space, many times therapists don't more or less look to more or less empower men. I'm a black male therapist that seeks to empower men by using art to more or less deal with the pain that many men have dealt with. And so I use art to more or less imitate life. And so we use the concept of the force because the force can be good or bad. Many guys or many people revert to the dark side of the force. The dark side of the force, guys, could be a symbolic of more or less drugs, alcoholism, sex. That's the dark side of the force. The dark side of the force is a lot more easier to do because it does not take discipline. But just like I used the thumbnail, as Kevin Samuels was talking to the lead attorney, he told the lead attorney to use the force. The force is being aware of the issues that you are dealing with. That's why you need to use the force. And so when men come together in the universality of brotherhood, we become a force. There are 8 stages of group therapy, and we're going to talk about it. But the main one, guys, is something called the universality of brotherhood. And I apologize, guys, once again for the mute. When you're running like 5 different things at one time, I got a lot of equipment, can get a little crazy. But the universality of brotherhood means this. It talks about the pain that other men have been through. That's what it talks about. It talks about the pain that other men have been through. That's the universality of brotherhood. It talks about the struggles that other men have been through. And so when men have a universal struggle and a universal language of their pain, then they can take notes. That's why a lot of these groups were formed, because men started to take notes. Men started to take notes. And when men started to take notes, they began to realize that they all were going through some of the same struggles and some of the same issues. When we come together in these groups, guys, we also talk about altruism. Altruism is understanding and more or less understanding what other men are going through and being empathetic to the pain of other men. But the main purpose of this show is to talk about the rebellion and more or less how April Mason clapped back at the lead attorney and Kevin Samuels. So we're going to talk about more in depth about the different stages of group development. And we're going to use some symbolism behind the Star Wars to more or less give the show a spin. So many of you guys have not used the force to benefit yourselves. Many of you guys have allowed your ego not to allow the force to come together, because as I said earlier before I was muted, the greatest thing that can hinder the force of brotherhood is the male ego. I'm going to say it again. The greatest thing that can hinder the force of the brotherhood is the male ego, because every man listening to this show, including myself, have an ego. Every man want to win. Every man that more or less went through his father's seminal ducts or went to his mother's egg is competitive. I'm very competitive. And so we want to win. But when we let our ego get in the way of our progress as men, it becomes a detriment to ourselves and also to the brotherhood. There are men listening to me that may not agree with everything I say. I don't agree with everything men say in these spaces. Do I respect them? Yes. Do I agree with everything they say? No, I don't. And I don't expect every man to agree with me. Do I respect them? I do respect them. But that's why I said we come together as allies of a common cause only to go away when the crisis is over. And there's a crisis in America. There's a crisis in heteronormative masculinity. Because every time black men begin to speak, or men in general, folks want what's called kumbaya therapy, when folks just come together and tap dance and yell and sing and say kumbaya. But when men start to get it raw and say things that most of our women are not used to, then our women get in their feelings. But for the last 50 years, some women or many women equivocated all black men as being ain't-ish. And so what you're seeing now, guys, is that many men are going through their stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, and depression. Some men are still in the anger phase of grief. When you hear men calling women all kinds of names, they're in the anger stage. They shouldn't stay there, because that's part of the red pill rage. But then there are some men in the denial stage of their anger and their grief. They're in the denial stage because they thought the women were sugar and spice and everything nice. But then there are some men that are in the bargaining stage. They're saying, can I get my woman back, or can I get the woman that I thought was a wholesome woman? So they struggle because they're vacillating constantly, trying to figure out how to get that woman back. But then some men go through the depression phase, where they're tempted to go to the dark side of the force instead of being on the light side. And many men go onto the dark side because they don't have the fellowship of the brotherhood. That's why I started the Manhood Chronicles. That's a part of the therapeutic process, the Manhood Chronicles. But then the last stage is called acceptance, where men just see women for what they are. Some call it black pill, where they just don't care. They just see women for what they are. They're indifferent. They don't hate them, but they see women for what they are, human. And so there's an old saying that says you can either love them or you can understand them, but you can't do both. So you got to make a choice. Women are human beings like we're human beings. Nothing special about them. They're just human. But tonight, guys, we're going to attack the issue that we were dealing with earlier with the Kevin Samuels and the April Mason fiasco. We're going to attack it. And we're going to get some clarity from this show, guys. We're going to get some clarity from it. And I want you guys to get some clarity from it, because when men come together, we can become the better versions of themselves. I want you guys to ask yourself the question, what did you get from it? Because the lead attorney did a good job breaking it down with Kevin Samuels. So I'm going to show this clip, guys. And we're going to go over it in a minute. Hold tight. All right. Hold tight. All right.
I think about some of her talking points.
Well, and this is one of the things I say, especially for newer content creators who are coming into this space. There is just so first year of law school, in my understanding, first year of law school is a weed out year.
Yes.
And they accomplished that by many tasks, but what I understand is a big part of it is reading.
Yes. It's a lot of reading.
That's like coming into any of these male spaces. There's the first year is a weed out year, because this has been going on since 2012 and before. When Tom Likas was doing this stuff on the West Coast, before the internet and before YouTube even existed, that's part of the context. So, you know, whatever iteration of the manosphere, the black manosphere you want to say we're in right now, there was content creators, female content creators who were just on the other side. April Mason was one of them. I can tell you for the better part of 10 years, she's been making content for women. And one of the things that I think, because you're a new guy and you open your platform, you let everybody come up. I understand what you're doing. You have to be diplomatic and let people, because you got to be neutral.
Yeah.
And what I think I'm starting to see is people, your platform, you're not a small content creator. So people who already have well-established content profiles will come over here when they would never, ever go over into the Thunderdome or any of these other platforms, because they you know, whatever iteration of the manosphere.
And so, God, that's what happens sometimes when we allow different people into these spaces. As I said earlier, I don't have an issue with good, wholesome sisters coming in to learn and to listen. Ideally, they should listen to understand the pain of men, because this is a man's space. But they're going to add clarity and substance to the issues of men, then I have no issues with it. But that's one of the risks you take when you bring women in. Some women have good intentions, but many don't. And the lead attorney is very open to allowing people to come in to share their thoughts and their ideas. Keep listening.
The black manosphere you want to say we're in right now, there was content creators, female content creators who were just on the other side. April Mason was one of them. I can tell you for the better part of 10 years, she's been making content for women. And one of the things that I think, because you're a new guy and you open your platform, you let everybody come up. I understand what you're doing. You have to be diplomatic and let people, because you got to be neutral.
Yeah.
And what I think I'm starting to see is people, you're not a small content creator. So people who already have well-established content profiles will come over here when they would never, ever go over into the Thunderdome or any of these other platforms, because they would have to speak about their evolution or their change. Someone would bring it up. Like, so when you couldn't understand what was going on in the contents in the comment section, I think your reaction was kind of like, hey, what I'm getting from the comment section is completely different than what I'm seeing. Well, it's because they saw April Mason a year or so ago basically hold black men to task on a false allegation that her cousin put out. And that's been well documented. And instead of coming back and saying, hey guys, my cousin did such and so forth, and I was in my car and I got a little heated and I, blah, blah, blah. No, she doubled and tripled down to the fact that where she brought guys onto her platform to pretty much admonish us men. So that's how a lot of guys kind of were looking at the content, from what I understand. Now, when she did put out the thing where she said she quit, we understood that. We were like, yeah, all right, cool.
Right.
And it was kind of like something we had seen previously when another person quit, and she basically said, well, I'm not doing this anymore, so I can tell all the truth. And that's what everybody was like, okay, so people know what's going on.
Right.
But when she was on your platform, it was almost like, oh, so now you're back to where you were a minute ago. And the thing, and I say, cool, but the notion that, I think, who was it earlier? The whole dopeness, I'm like, different. And let me also make a big distinction too.
And see, guys, that's what men feel about. They feel like many times, many women in America tend to elevate their own self-worth at the behest of most men. Many men have very low self-esteem. They tolerate disrespect. They tolerate anything because they have not been conditioned to love themselves. They have not been conditioned to see themselves as worthy. And because many men have not been conditioned to see themselves as worthy, they tend to suffer in silence due to their pain and due to their hurt. And so when men begin to say, I'm great, then it causes an affliction in the minds of many American women because they're not used to men finally saying that I'm going to be great, I'm going to love myself, and I'm not going to allow others to step and tread upon me. We have groups we have women saying black girl magic, black girls rock, and which I don't have an issue with it. But imagine if a million black men saying that black men rise or black men are dope or black men are whatever. People will see us as being narcissistic. And that's why a lot of times, many times on a subconscious level, a lot of women, our women, they don't respect us and they don't respect the masculinity, the power of many black men because they've never seen it in their own lives or in their families many. Keep listening.
I talk about high value men. I want to make this crystal clear. There is a difference between being an athlete, entertainer, or a musician and a business person. Due respect, we only get our value after years and years of work, competition, and becoming subject matter experts in a particular field. And no disrespect to those guys on athletics, entertainment, and musicians, they get their money earlier through different channels. So we look at money differently. We look at what we've had to do. And even women who are dating men from that sphere know it's different than dating men from the business sphere. Completely different.
Right.
Even if the money is on par, we're not as loose with it. We are much more, what am I getting from it? Because in a lot of guys' minds is, I didn't have a talent that jumped me to the head of the financial line in my youth. I had to make myself valuable in a courtroom, in a boardroom, in the surgical room, on scaffolding, in the field of battle, or whatever. So when we start hearing women talking about men are byproducts of doing,
yes.
like,
let me do this. Let me try to play a clip where she said that. She was basically saying that, and I had
Go
never.
ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had never heard this. Give me a second to pull it up. I had never heard this argument put forth before, so I thought it was interesting. Let's hear what she has to say about men and the role that they play in women's lives here.
This worked. It worked for me. It worked, because I'm all excited. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. Girl, if you get yourself right, you do this, become the feminine woman for you first. The man is the byproduct. The man is not the reason why you're here. He is the byproduct. If you do these things, you're not in a hurry to get married. Yeah. And so people would always ask me, how do you do what you do when you're not married? I said, because I am a walking example of what I teach.
So let me stop it right there, which, and I had never heard a woman say this before, but it was interesting to me. But she's basically saying, listen, if a woman doesn't need to try to get the man. What the woman needs to do is become dope. And once she becomes dope, then the man coming to her is a byproduct of her becoming dope, right? So she should become dope, and then all of these men will easily come. And I kind of want to know how you feel about that.
And see, guys, those are some of the unconscious pathologies of April Mason. That is an unconscious pathology because, see, guys, in other cultures, women understand that men are not a byproduct of their dopeness. What women understand is that they become better women where they have masculine men guarding them and loving them and corralling them. Many of these women, I'm not saying April Mason claimed to be a Christian, but in the edicts or the tenets of theology, the gospel say that the woman was made for the man. I didn't say it. The Bible said if you believe in it. It also said the woman is the glory of the man, and the man is the glory of God. So a woman actually becomes better when her mission is being served on the earth, which is to honor and respect, and that dirty word, obey her husband. And when that man becomes the best version of himself, when he learns to understand his woman and work together and they can build a legacy. But women like April Mason is a reflection of how many modern women feel on a subconscious and conscious level, is that they get the man that they want, and for that man to come to them, then only thing the woman has to do is just be dope. And it's more nuanced than that. It's more than her becoming dope. She can become dope all she wants to, but she doesn't have a mission to serve. How's that going to benefit that man? Keep listening.
Because, that's going to work maybe for the 9s and 10s, but to be honest, the 9s and 10s, we're going to get the man anyway, right? But I never heard of someone calling a man kind of a byproduct.
Well, I want to also go back to something. I think I heard in the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, a good deal amount of faith, talking about gifting. My gifts came in a different way in God and things like this. So what I'm first off, if we're going to look at it from that being how y'all started the conversation, Adam was not a byproduct of Eve, quite the opposite. So I don't know where you get that from as a Christian woman. I don't understand how you even substantiate that if we're going to talk about God and gifting.
Yeah, it does. It seems like a big disconnect. And then she was going on talking about how men think we are the validators, but we're really not. Let me play this clip right here. We can kind of see what she's saying.
See, people think that the man is the validator. Although I love you guys, I love a man, just the way y'all walk and how y'all smell and just all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But you're the byproduct. See, women would think or question me, she don't have a husband because I wasn't supposed to have a husband while I was going through developing who April was. If I would have remarried during that time, I would have been divorced again.
Yeah, so she's basically saying, what women need to work on themselves. And once they work on themselves, then all of these 6-figure men, 7-figure men, 8-figure men are going to come. And what I thought was super interesting is that she was saying, she said later on that once all these 6-figure men, 7-figure men, 8-figure men come, she doesn't need to be in a rush to get married. She needs to start dating this 7-figure man. Then maybe she'll start dating this 8-figure man. then maybe, you know, sample this six-figure man over here, and then just take.
And guys, what you're seeing,
content creators,
what you're seeing, guys,
you're
seeing, guys, is basically an objectification of the American male as it relates to his finances. You know, and I know that most men will never be 7- and 8-figure men. But the question remains, what is April Mason giving them in return? Will a man making 7 to 8 figures get with a woman that got 3 kids and has been married? For a 7 to 8-figure man back in the past, he got a woman that was wife ready. She was very virtuous, many cases a virgin, and she was, you know, conditioned to serve her man. But April Mason feels that she should get an 8-figure man just because of her working on herself. And it's obvious that she doesn't understand how men think, because men with 8 figures could use April Mason. But a lot of times they end up getting a woman that's younger, prettier, or better, because men that have money have options and status. And they can always get a younger, prettier version of April Mason. And that's the great conundrum that many women don't want to hear. Men with money have options because they're rare. But what happens, guys, they look past the good guys making 60 and 70,000 or 45,000. They're the good men. They see you as nothing. They see you as less than. But when men start demanding standards and say she got to come X, Y, Z, then all of a sudden it's an issue. Keep listening.
Things like this. So what I'm first off, if we're going to look at it from that being how y'all started the conversation, Adam was not a byproduct of Eve. Quite the opposite. So I don't know where you get that from as a Christian woman. I don't understand how you even substantiate that if we're going to talk about God and gifting.
Yeah, it does. It seems like a big disconnect. And then she was going on talking about how men think we are the validators, but we're really not. Let me play this clip right here. We can kind of see what she's saying.
See, people think that the man is the validator. Although I love you guys, I love a man, just the way y'all walk and how y'all smell and just all of that, right? Mm-hmm. But you're the byproduct. See, women would think or question me, she don't have a husband because I wasn't supposed to have a husband while I was going through developing who April was. If I would have remarried during that time, I would have been divorced again.
Yeah, so she's basically saying, you know, what women need to work on themselves. And once they work on themselves, then all of these 6-figure men, 7-figure men, 8-figure men are going to come. And what I thought was super interesting is that she was saying, she said later on that once all these 6-figure men, 7-figure men, 8-figure men come, she doesn't need to be in a rush to get married. You know, she needs to start dating this 7-figure man. Then maybe she'll start dating this 8-figure man. Then maybe, you know, sample this 6-figure man over here, and then just take her time and then select from the 6 and 7 and 8-figure man, which of these men is going to be her husband. You know, how does that work in reality?
Well, again, I go back to the original thing. If you're going to be talking about Christians and that kind of stuff, it doesn't work. Eve did not have a selection of men. It was Adam. And Adam definitely was the validator because God never spoke to Eve. He gave the instructions on what to do in the garden directly to Adam. God, there's nothing in Genesis with God ever speaking to Eve, but even if we want to go further, what we're hearing is modern woman. Right. It's modern woman empowerment, independent, but I like men. Nature doesn't even support what we're talking about here. Nature doesn't tell women to wait until you get all these men to pick from. That's not what happens. But when you're telling, I did think that there was some truths interspliced with some opinions and some points of view. And when you have it primarily.
And guys, that's what I said. When you have truth mixed with error, it becomes dangerous. April does have some talking points that are salient. But the truth is this: men are the arbiters of relationships. We determine who we marry. Women don't. A woman that's a 1 and a man that's a 1, if that man that's a 1 say he doesn't want to marry that woman, he won't marry her. So men determine who they marry and who they want. That goes back to what modern women say, I want you, but I don't need you. They want the healing, the validation power of a man, but they're saying that I don't need you because they make their own money. And so men are beginning to see things for what it is. They're beginning to see the dark side of feminine nature. And, April Mason talked about that, but also the dark side of the modern woman. Keep listening.
Female audience, you got to tell women, like she said in that broadcast, you want to get paid, tell women what they want to hear.
Yes, that's exactly right. That is exactly right.
But if you're also going to try to make the turn and start speaking to a broader male audience, you have to try to tell us some good lies. That's why I love my theme song, but it doesn't make any sense. That's why your chat room was going ballistic, because they were like, no, if you have to make yourself dope, you. So women make women dope for men. How do you do that if you don't ask the men what they want? You cannot make the byproduct. You cannot make the end goal. That's why I love my show. What do you want? And what do the kind of men you want from a woman? And it always goes through what we want. See, what we're telling women is get out here and become dope. Get out here and become this and that. And what does that really mean? Get out here and make a lot of money. Get out here and make yourself independent and somehow dark femininity. Was it dark femininity?
Yeah, dark feminine energy, she was saying.
Well, you could say dark feminine energy, and some people will say Jezebel. I mean, I'm not making a judgment either way. I don't have to hang up on sexuality but what I mean, sexuality meaning that women are supposed to be prudish. But at the end of the day, it sounded like partnership. It sounded as though that when a woman becomes dope, then she's got this plethora of I got options, and these men.
Guys, you're right. That's where that dopeness comes from. Like I said, it doesn't see the man as a necessity. It see the man as an option. Shout out to my man, Tim Howell, for the $2 super chat. And shout out to my man, the Ingram Experience, for the $20 super chat. The Ingram Experience said with the $20 super chat that, hold tight, let me read this super chat. April is completely delusional. He's correct. But what you're seeing in April, guys, is a byproduct of what many men see in modern women. They don't come into the relationship seeing you as being the validator of them. But once again, some of these women say they're Christian. And April came out earlier or later today and said she's not a Christian. But I remember a time that April did talk about tenets of Christianity, so it's like she's contradicting herself. The woman was made for the man, according to the Bible, if you believe in theology. Eve was made for Adam, to serve him as Adam loves her and turns around and protects her. It's a mutualistic relationship. But the problem is now men and women want men to be modern while they want men to be traditional while they remain modern. And so when we have these shows with Kevin Samuels and the lead attorney, we talk about the dark side of the force and how men, when we work together, become a force. It helps us to see through the ignorance, but also through the machinations of so many modern women. Because once you understand female nature, you don't hate women. You just see women for what they are, human, with tendencies to deceive you and to hurt you if you're not careful. Keep listening.
Coming out of this and that, yeah, but are they vetting you to be their wife?
Right.
And that's what we never really get to. Yeah, you can be attractive, and you can be you live in Atlanta. I'm in the Buckhead area. I see lots of arm candy. But what I see more often, especially in other races, is wedding rings. Yes. That is the ultimate validation. A man is judged on the kind of woman he can attract. A woman is judged by the kind of man that she can keep. And in the keeping, it becomes last name, legal wedding ring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You were talking about this whole thing about partnership, right? And April, in this I don't want to call it an interview, when she just came up and she was speaking, she was kind of, saying that, women had some responsibility in this, but men also had some responsibility in this. She was talking about how men sometimes they are not creating the environment that is necessary for women to really show their true femininity. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of see where she's going with this.
Place what you do. So when you move the corporate ladder or go get successful in your business, that does not mean you don't be the woman. And a lot of times, especially our men, they say they want this type of woman, but they don't create an environment for that woman to actually be, because they're so
Okay.
used to doing. When they say, I want a strong woman like my mom, well, what was your mother's quality of life? Did she work 4 and 5 jobs? There's no way I could be with a man that wanted me to work every day, take care of the kids, and be his sex kid and his sex.
Women years ago, guys, knew mission and duty. Listen, when this country was forming and it was becoming a pioneering country from the agrarian culture to the industrial age, some of those women had 4, 5, 6 kids. They were still feminine, but they still helped their husbands on the outside with farming. They took care of the home, and they didn't complain about it because they knew it was duty. That was the cost of being married. Ideally, should a man put a woman in a good environment for her to become feminine? In theory, yes, in theory. But look at the men that put their women in nice homes and giving them nice cars and did all these extraneous things only for the woman to end up divorcing them 5 or 10 years later. So ideally, what she's saying is correct, but unless if that woman has not been taught to be a traditional woman, if she has not been imprinted by a bunch of dusty men that are negative, if she has not been indoctrinated by liberal ideology, you can put in a clean environment all you want to. It does not mean that you're going to get the outcomes that you want as a man. That's why I said what she's saying is a myth. She's saying that if the conditions are all in the right place. But you can put a woman in all those conditions and there's still no guarantee, because guess what? 70 to 80% of divorces are not initiated by men. They're initiated by women, and 90% are educated women. So April Mason is talking about conditional femininity under ideal circumstances. And ideally a man should have that, but here's the caveat, guys. What is that man getting in return? Because she wants that man to put her in a condition or an environment where she can be feminine. But is that man getting a traditional woman? Is that man getting a woman with no kids? Is that man getting a woman with low bodies or a virgin? He's not getting that. So why should a man give this woman everything where women years ago knew that in order to get a man or a decent man, they had to serve? So it appears to me that many modern women are putting their needs ahead of the needs of their men. And because of that, a lot of men are frustrated, guys. Keep listening.
Sexy vixen, his confidant, his peaceful place, and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I tell women, you got to decide on what kind of man that you want.
So what do you think about that, Kevin? You know, she's saying, listen, a lot of you men, you know, you don't create a space for your woman to become feminine. You want her to work and you want her to take care of your kids and you want her to have sex with you. How are you expecting a woman to do all of that? You know, if you're not, I guess, you know, so making, 100% of the money and you're not allowing her to stay home with the kids.
Okay.
What's your sense of that?
My sense of that is
because
2.5 million black men are in the upper middle, in the upper class. There are 40 million black people in this country. Mm-hmm. Roughly half are men and women, so it's 20 million. 2.5 of that 20 million black men are in the upper class. 54% of black men are single and childless. 61% are in the middle class. So according to the stats, that's providing like a mother sucker if you're picked. See, what this is a lot more of this. I would be a feminine woman if you could provide for me so much that I could, quote unquote, rest in my femininity. Well, if that's the case, then don't get mad if these very men who can't provide well enough for you pick Becky, Marisol, Marlene, or Jamila. Right. You know, the difference between what an average white man makes in this country and an average black man makes is right around $9,000. But there's a definite disparity in the way we're treated between the races. And Hispanic men earn below us, and they damn sure get treated better. This is more of that. I'll be the woman you need if you provide. That's conditional femininity. And then women would not accept conditional masculinity.
Correct. And this is kind of what she was saying. And, I wonder myself, and you talk to so many women,
Shout out to Tim Howard for the $10 super chat. Thank you, Tim. Tim said the black men first, and I agree, man. This is a new movement when men are coming together sharing their pain. This is a group catharsis because what April Mason wants is conditional femininity. But suppose a man said that if you don't lose weight, then I'm not going to provide. That's conditional masculinity. Suppose a man said if you don't protect, then I'm not going to provide. That's conditional masculinity. Suppose a man said if you don't give me sex, I'm not going to protect you or provide for you. Men are always expected to be the adherents of traditional masculinity, but our women are selective. And Kevin is right when he says that in other countries, and I just got back from Brazil, it's not robbery to serve a man. They don't see nothing wrong with it. They actually love serving their man. And that's the big difference, guys, with modern women versus women that are traditional. And that's why I advocate for men to travel abroad and to deal with women that have been conditioned to love them and to honor them as a man. Keep listening. Hold tight.
And Hispanic men earn below us, and they damn sure get treated better. This is more of that. I'll be the woman you need if you provide. That's conditional femininity, and then women would not accept conditional masculinity.
Correct. And this is kind of what she was saying. And I wonder myself. And you talk to so many women on your shows, and you kind of have a real sense of how they operate. It seems to me, and even April was saying, she was like, hey, I run all of these companies, but I only allow myself, 10% of masculinity on this day or 15% of masculinity on this day, because if I go over too much masculinity, then I would just become masculine. And to me, I interpret that as almost that she has a dial, right? And she can just choose when she becomes masculine and when she becomes feminine. And it seems like a lot of women are saying, hey, if you want me to work, right, then maybe I'm not going to be so feminine. If you want me to take care of the kids, maybe you don't get any sex. It's this conditional. Do you see that when you talk with a lot of people?
I see it a lot for justification for why they're failing. But I go back to the original failure. A lot of these women were raised by, a lot of these women thought their mothers and their grandmothers were fools. A lot of these women, baby boomers, thought the silent generation women were fools because they stayed with their fathers, and a lot of these women rebelled against the very thing that made the Black community great, family. And then when they get in their late 40s or 50s, then all of a sudden they get these epiphanies. And you go back and say, well, why were we married at a rate of 80+% prior to 1965?
And that's why so many Black men get frustrated, because many Black men don't want a woman on her downcline. A man want a woman when she's at her.
I see it a lot
when she's at her peak fertility. That's when men want a woman. They want a woman when she's at her peak fertility, not a woman on her downcline. That's why so many men get angry and frustrated, because some women, after they had their quote unquote fun or been damaged by goofy and dusty men, then all of a sudden they want a good man. And I understand that some of our women were more or less sabotaged or more or less compromised, but some of them chose to be compromised. Some of them did, not all, but some did. And that's why so many men get frustrated and angry, and you see the bitter and the vitriol for so many men in these spaces, because they feel like these women want to give them less than when they gave their best to men that were not worthy of them, but now you want to give me less than. And so many men are frustrated by it. Keep listening.
And it's me, my boss, dope, this, that, and that's fine. My issue is that no other group of women has such poor outcomes and refuses to look in the mirror and the rhetoric that they're talking about. So what they've done in I don't know, how old are you? I'm 52. My entire lifetime, my entire life, I've heard Black men are at the bottom, this, that, but now we have the internet and we have the data to actually go out against these narratives to show that it's not the problem. The problem is not with the selection of men, it's the problem with the selection of wives. Because what would happen is a men are like you or I were to get out here, and if we were to show up with anything other than a Black woman on our arm, and I know what would happen.
Facts.
And the fact of the matter is, instead of they would go after you or me, instead of saying, why did Black women lose another one?
But the problem is, guys, that lets you know that we live in a gynocentric society Because in other countries and cultures, men do what they want to do. They don't ask their women for permission to date who they want to date. I'm not against a woman dating who she want to date. If a woman want to date a white man, orange man, a pink man, or green man, she can date who she want to date. I don't have any issue with it. But it's almost like on the flip side, black men got to ask permission if they decide to date a woman outside the culture, outside the country, or outside of their ethnic origin. You know, and like I said earlier, I say that black men should do what's best for them. All men should do what's best for them. That's why I do these channels, to empower men to remodify their thought processes. That's why we're having this show tonight, because this is group therapy. When you have men like the lead attorney Kevin Samuels, and, you know, and I agree with a lot more. I agree more with what they say than less. But when these men come together, they're forming a force. They're forming a band. They're forming a band of brotherhood, where men can come together and share in the process their pain, where men can have outcomes, where I can talk to you men about the different things that you're dealing with. Because many men are coming together in the spirit of universality of the brotherhood, where they're trying to more or less decipher the shenanigans of this current democracy that we live in. Many men don't get to tell their story because men have gone to the grave. But I've taken upon myself not to see another man go to the grave due to brokenness. Keep listening.
Right. And again, you know, to be fair to April, she in that post, that Instagram post that lit it all up, she herself was saying that women are not being accountable. Women are rejecting accountability. They are rejecting responsibility. They do not want to accept some of the flaws and the errors that they're making that are causing maybe some of these men to look in other directions. Right.
Well, I mean, and the thing is, yeah, and here's the thing: telling black women the truth has a high cost, and some people think they can pay it. But you'll know the first time you tell the truth what happens, the blowback.
Right. Because
the truth is true no matter what you say.
And guys, that's what I said. It's called a schema affliction. When women come in these spaces, when they hear men vent, whether the men are saying anything savory or not, some women get afflicted. And it's a clinical term I created called a schema affliction. Schema means a fixated way of thinking. Affliction is due to the fear, because they don't want to hear the fear associated with what men think. That schema more or less says that they see themselves in one way. But when men start saying, I don't want a woman that's 600 pounds. I don't want a woman that got 6 kids by 6 different men. I don't want a woman that's had a lot of fun to be my wife. Then all of a sudden you hate black women and your mama's black, because they cannot deal with the reality, because they're going to do a stage of denial as well. That now black men are beginning to have standards. Now black men are like the rebels from Star Wars. They're rebelling against the empirical forces, which is the gynocracy. Many black men are saying to themselves, I'm going to do what's best for me. Some movements like SYSBM, Save Yourself Black Men, IPMOR, Introspective Black Men of Reform, is when men now are beginning to say that I'm going to do what's best for me. And that's why I do these shows, because when you hear different men talking, that's part of the universality of brotherhood, where men come together to share their stories, when men come together to share their pain. Keep listening.
Why when we talk about I can't be feminine because I got to work too hard, then I look at these women who come into this country illegally, who I worked in restaurants. I've seen hardworking people.
Yes.
How come Jose can stand out in front of Home Depot and Maria can be a dishwasher, but he comes home and he gets treated like a king and they're broke? And see, here's the net of it. Okay, let's just take the argument.
Simple, the reason why it can happen, because men are the validators in relationships, because those women come from cultures that are patriarchies. I'm going to do a show, guys, soon, another good live stream, so I need you guys to get ready for it. It's going to be lit. But when I was in Brazil, you're going to see that there are black Brazilians in Brazil. And the title of the show is going to be called Your Mama is Black and So Are Brazilians. And basically what it means is this: just like there's a level of veracity that women use to pontificate your mama is black as a form of shaming language to get you in line, I'm going to remodify your thoughts and let you know that they're just like women use that. Some women use that talking point, not all sisters, but some use that talking point, where there's a talking point that Brazilians are black. And they are Afro-Latin women. They have been conditioned to serve you and to love you because they were born under patriarchal conditioning. Most women from other countries are born under patriarchies. Most men in America are born under matriarchies where they've been conditioned to serve women and they've been conditioned to be quiet and not talk about female bad behavior because they're scared they're going to be censored. My job as a licensed therapist is to empower you guys. I'm an empowerment therapist. I'm taking a risk doing what I'm doing. But I'm not a kumbaya therapist where we all sit together and hold hands and talk. That's passive. I'm a masculine black man. I'm a man before I'm a therapist. But I understand the pathology that many men are dealing with. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. To all the super chats, guys, I can't get all of them right now, but in a minute, I'm going to open the line up and we're going to have a conversation. But to the guys that have been donating, thank you guys. I'm honored, and I thank you guys for what you're doing. Please share the content. Let's try to get this stream to 100 tonight. Let's try to get it to 50 or 100. If you have not shared the content, share the content, guys, because it's time for the brotherhood to come together and set aside our ego, because there's a crisis in heteronormative masculinity. Keep listening.
You're right. You're right. Black men can't provide. We're behind. We're poor leaders. Then where are the non-black men rushing to marry you? Because if you're ready to go, if you're all these dope women, where's Blake, Lee, Ahmed, and Enrique marrying black women in droves, especially the higher earners, the ones that have to make. But see, what's funny is when we see a lot of women who tend to go outside the community, they tend to date down.
Yes.
And then they become all kinds of feminine. So it's really down to the reality is what we've discussed. The war in the black community is, do you like your male counterparts? And the issue today is now, unlike when I was a young man, men were taking that responsibility on and trying to fix it. Now guys recognize that, hell, we're dope. We're hella dope.
Right.
We're dope as mother. We're dope, and white women just don't like you because you're a sex object. They like you because you're a good man. Hispanic women don't just like you because you got a big job. They just like you because you're a good guy. They like you for functional health reasons, not some mandingo slave Django.
I want to tell you, you are dope. You are the offspring of God. You are the first fruits of God's creation. In other countries, the average black man is celebrated as a king. It doesn't mean that women from other countries don't have issues. But in other countries, black men, you are celebrated instead of being tolerated. You don't have to make 7 figures and 8 figures to get a decent woman. You don't have to do all this crazy stuff when in other cultures it's normal to give your husband sex. It's normal just to do all the extras. And that's why I said I did a show in the past called Taxation Without Representation and the Mental Breaking of the American Man. Because April Mason is a sign, or more or less a symbol of the dark side. She's a symbol of the imperial forces that has come against heteronormative masculinity.
Go fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality. It's like you can't keep telling women to be dope, and you don't see some dope outcomes. How are we measuring dope outcomes? And if it's on dealing with hooking up, going to conferences, seminars, such and so forth, where are the last names? Where are the properties? Where are the wills? Where are the trust funds? Where's all this stuff? Where's all the stuff? Because if you want, I'm not going to do it this week, but if you look at the stats of what's happened with other groups, the amount of wealth, Tone Talks was talking about this, the amount of wealth the white community made during COVID versus the black community. Marital filings were up at a 50-year high in every community except ours. And it's not because, and we have been told our entire lives it's because black men are deficient. No, black men are doing just fine.
Yes. What do you think the impetus is, or the resistance coming from women to kind of change? Because it seems that, men are trying to be very, very clear about what we are seeing. And, there's this huge resistance. We talk sometimes about weight, which is an issue in our community, and women not wanting to lose weight, which granted, it requires a lot of effort, right? Or maybe for some women to express their femininity. April was talking about dialing it in and out. Maybe it's hard for a woman to dial that femininity up because then they start looking weak. It seems like women are practicing this type of conservation of energy where they don't want to expend effort to make their men, their black men happy? Or, you know, do you see this, or is it kind of
because when you were 80% of us are raised, they think a lot of black women feel like we're their property. There are mothers, there are babysitters, there are teachers. The image of black men is not really an image of power. So they think that, how do you think you can have a 20-something-year-old woman come try to tell me about business and she's homeless? I mean, because that's our culture.
Right.
I mean, so to answer your bigger question, why the pushback? Well, because one, when you're desperate, possibility is more important than probability. Because when you're desperate, possibility is all you got to hold on to. The exception is more comforting than the norm. Because the fact of the matter is, when men get older and more successful, they have more options and women have more competition. And at the end of the day, Lee, the black man ain't nothing to compete for. So why should they struggle? Right. There ain't nothing to compete for. I mean, you should be just happy that they're willing to talk to you. Well, I could compete for you? Come on, man. That ain't nah.
Yes. Women will absolutely say, you know, because we actually, you know, to really boil it down to a concrete example, April Mason, she made another post about black women fixing black men a plate of Thanksgiving plate. Right. So in terms of like losing weight, or in terms of changing, in terms of becoming more femininity, no, we're talking about one single act of putting some collard greens and putting some chicken. You gonna get a plate.
Wait a minute, bro. Counselor, how can you get a plate when you can't get a smile?
Yeah.
Yes. The reality is, a lot of brothers are having to see how so many black women truly feel about the black male image. And it's not good. It's not good. And I'm glad.
Image is due to a condition called negative socialization. That image is due to her or that child living through the vicarious trauma of her mother. And that's why they have a scheme of affliction when black men begin to speak out and black men begin to demand. They begin to try to shame you. They begin to try to change the narrative to more or less justify their fragile ego. And the fact remains, guys, is this, that many black men love black women. They just don't love the attitudes of the modern black woman and her extraneous demands and her delusions. And because of those delusions, her ability to become deaf, a lot of black men are saying, you know what? I either stay single, I'll focus on myself, I'll get my passport and travel abroad, or I'll deal with other ethnic groups of women that more or less respect me and honor me as a man. Because how many brothers have been more or less chastened by their sisters, their aunts, their mothers, and their grandmothers? More or less told them to stay in line. Other men don't tolerate that goofiness in other cultures. And because men have been raised by women many times and they've never seen masculine power, that's all they know. Keep listening.
Glad that a lot of black men are starting to wake up and realize it's not your fault.
Yes.
It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility for you to change it. It's not. You've had to become who you are through all the trials and tribulations, everything else been put in front of you. You don't have to prove yourself to a woman. That has never been how this works. She's supposed to earn your last name.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how it works in every other group. So I'm not trying to get women to become less dope or this or that. And if they're so great one, let's just look at the numbers. At the end of the day, the filings. And if you look at the inversely proportional curve of happiness, especially in the black community, happiness for black women is descending at an exponential rate, and happiness is ascending. And it's after 30 is where it starts, and after 40 is where it really takes off. So if you are late, this is why tonight when I'll be talking about, I'm focusing like a laser on women 32 and above. If you're past the wall, the biological wall that nature put out there, we didn't put it out there, nature did. Okay, if you're past the wall, if the last time you can remember that you were actually an appropriate dress size was an elementary or just high, I mean, seriously, I asked them, when was the
Yes.
last time you remember being a dress size 6? I was never a dress size 6. So you went from the womb to a 22. So if it's been so long since they've had to, even the notion of even competing for a black man is foreign. So what we're trying to do is they're trying to legislate male attractiveness. They're trying to get men to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And men just aren't doing it because they don't have to. I posted on my community tab that younger people are opting to not get married for their own reasons. We're of a different generation. See, we saw a world that was. We saw grandparents and people who were married for years and years, whether it was your family or not. We saw a world that does not exist anymore.
Thanks.
And the world that exists right now is extremely competitive. The even here in the South, the stigma on interracial marriage ain't nowhere what it was even 20 years ago. And like Dr. Tia San Johnson will tell you, non-black women are actively pursuing black men. I see it every day here in Buckhead.
Yes.
These women don't want to compete. These other women are like, you don't want to compete. They got no problem competing. They got no problem smiling, fixing plates, whatever. So it comes down to a matter is it easier? Is it easier to do what we're asking as men, or is it easier to live the rest of your life alone?
Right. Do you think this is maybe short-term thinking? Because I've even got, a few friends of friends. Maybe you've got a woman and, she's 36 and she's making $65,000 a year and she's got her kid and, maybe she's not very attractive, but she's just willing just to stay at home and, she wants to have a boyfriend, but she's not on any apps. And she's kind of waiting, if we can be honest, that he just kind of shows up at her door, right?
The answer is they're all going to the league. They don't expect it to be them. They are the one that's going to be. That's why I said it's possibility is more important than probability. Yes. That's what I said. Exception is more than norm. If you ask your friend, what's the probability that you're going to find a husband's going to find you? They'll tell you they got a 50. Look on my channel. I don't know how actively you watch my content. They will tell you 50, 70, 80% when we currently have a black marital rate amongst black women of 26%. And they will tell you they got a better than 50-50 shot. And that's what my show has done. It's shown that no matter what position women in, they honestly think it's going to be them, because here's where it comes back. They believe in faith. God's going to do it for me. Yes. That's why I keep shooting that down. Don't put that on my God. He ain't never said that. And if it ain't God, it's manifestation madness. I'll manifest it, because the reality is the reality is it's less than a 10% chance. And that's too hard for people. It's too hard for women to admit that I have mismanaged my youth. I have been mismanaged my womb. I have mismanaged my time. And I have put myself in the position to where the kind of caliber of man that I would want to spend the rest of my life with does not know me and is not currently vetting me for being anything, much less a wife. Because you ask these women, like your lady friend, do you have the kind of caliber of man that you would be interested in actively vetting you to be a wife? No. Okay. Have you ever? No. And if you just start asking them, where are these men? Who are they? What are they? And they will tell you, they just expect it to happen. Last point. When I ask women, forget what I'm saying. I could be all wrong. Bump that. But when you get to retirement age at age 65, are you going to have your $2.4 million to survive on between ages 65 and 85? Cash. And I will have women who are making $50,000 a year, $40,000 a year, $30,000 a year. Tell me, I'll have it. How? Well, I plan on starting a business.
Eyelashes, right?
No. It's not even. It's real estate, stocks, It's something that doesn't require a professional degree. See, because the kind of money they need to make.
And that's what happened to an older lady that came on my show, guys, called The Man Tree. Go look at that show when you get a chance. And to the 34 that are listening, please share the content. Let's get this stream up to 50 to 100 tonight, because we're going to have a good show. I'm about to finish this at some point. But more or less, we're going to continue the discussion about the universality of brotherhood. What are the 8 stages of group therapy? Because this is a synthetic group. This is a virtual group where men are coming together to share their stories, and when men are coming together to share their pain. And so, guys, please share the content. Share the content. I'm grateful to the guys that have donated to the Cash App and also to the Super Chat. Thank you, guys. But sharing the content and getting the likes up means more to me than anything, because remember, guys, as a therapist, I take a risk doing this. Many people don't like messages of male empowerment. They don't like it. And anytime masculine men speak up, some interpret it as you hate black women, you hate women. And that's a thinking error called overgeneralization or catastrophizing or over-magnification. Those are thinking errors that a lot of our women have. And some of our men have it too. But my job is to empower black men with options to see what their worth is, because many have low self-esteem. And that's why you begin to see a wave of men in spaces trying to empower black men. That's why I said that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And understanding female psychology is one of them. So guys, share the content. Let's get 50 to 100 people in this stream. Share this content with as many brothers as you can, white or black, it doesn't matter. Because we need to band together and make the force stronger than what it currently is. Because anytime black men speak out, or men in general, there's always a clapback. And so you'll know the women that are what I call with good intentions, because when men begin to speak, they don't take it personal, or they don't get in their feelings or unsubscribe. But my channel may not be for everybody. My channel is to empower men, but especially black men. Keep listening.
To overcome the lack of what they made in their younger years is going to have to be in excess of 6 figures. And we know the way to get those: doctor, lawyer, engineer, science, technology, engineering, math, accountant, some sort of professional certification in secondary education. We know when you go to university, they tell you these are the professions that have the higher incomes. But when you go over to liberal arts, humanities, or the business school, these, especially in business, marketing, business administration, communications, all these things, these are these degrees that have the possibility of being to have a higher earner, but the probability is low. So they're sitting here looking and saying, men know that there's no safety net. No one's coming to save us. And if we don't have enough money, the streets are waiting for us. Women honestly have believed that somebody will do it for them. The government, they don't believe that you're going to start to see what's already happening. Tent cities of women and children. That's the largest growing homeless population right now. Young families defined as women and children. It's growing, but they don't. And all of this is, you would rather put yourself in this position versus being what a man is asking for. That's a choice. So you got to think about it. You would rather risk this other than cooperation with a man.
It's amazing. Yes. Listen, thank you so much, Kevin Samuels, the Godfather, for coming over and blessing the stream. Really appreciate you coming over and giving us some of your valuable time to talk to the people and drop some gems.
No problem.
And kind of elucidate what's going on over here with April Mason. So thank you so much.
Well, let me say one thing before I leave.
Yeah.
I think, Obsidian made a good point. She's not an enemy. She's definitely not an enemy.
Right.
The post that she made about, the realities of dealing with the women, all that stuff is valid. So I would not seek to make her an enemy. She's judging the world for women based through her lenses. The opportunities that she may have, if I were to ask her the question, if I would say, do you think that the average woman could get the outcomes? I would love to hear that answer. Right. But I just think that, she was saying people saying she was speaking out of both sides of her neck. Well, that tends to happen when you're personal here, and then here's the big stuff. So
yeah,
I'll take the fact that she told women this, that, such, and so forth. But that byproduct stuff, I'm not good with that byproduct.
You are exactly right. Shout out to the Kevin Sanders. Thank you so much for coming over. I really, really appreciate it. You are always welcome, brother.
Peace out. Thank you.
All right, guys. So that goes back to our conversation that we had earlier, guys. That goes back to our conversation that we had earlier. When men begin to band together, they form a brotherhood. As I said earlier, the greatest indictment to the forming of that brotherhood is the male ego. The male ego is the greatest barrier to the forming of group synthesis. Because every man, including myself, as I said earlier on this stream, we want to win. I'm very competitive. Like I'm sure the men that are listening are very competitive. But a force is built when men begin to see the world for what it is. As I said earlier, that's the universality of brotherhood. And that universality of brotherhood is also based in what's called altruism, where we begin to be sympathetic or empathetic to the needs of other men. So many men in our lives have not been empathetic to others. They've never seen empathy being manifest. And now what you're seeing is guys in this group synthesis come together. What you're seeing now is a stage of group therapy, something called group cohesiveness, where men like Kevin Samuels, the lead attorney, the kosher clinician, and other men are coming together from different backgrounds and different ideologies, only to dissipate when the crisis is over, because there's a crisis. We're coming together to share our stories, to compare the notes, and to share our pain. One of the other stages of group therapy is to instill hope. Many men are hopeless. As I said in the past, that a hopeless man, a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many men implode because they don't have the power to emote or the place to emote. And what happens when men begin to emote, some women say, oh, you're sensitive, or, you're too sensitive, grow up, or, you always hurt. And let me say this with you guys. If you believe in the teachings of the prophet Jesus, Jesus was a man. Jesus wept, but he didn't stay there. He wept, but he didn't stay there because he had a mission outside of his pain. Watch this. I'm going to drop some fire for your mind. I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. Fire! Again. He had a mission. Your mind. The kosher. Outside of his pain. But he didn't stay there. Because his mission was to save the lost. And your mission is to save yourself as a black man and to build your legacy. That's your mission. So when some women try to excoriate men from, emoting, they are emoting because they're being triggered due to the pain that they went through, because they're dealing with unresolved grief or unresolved pain. That's why you see these men emoting. That's why you see men calling women B's and the H word and all of that. And not that I endorse that, I understand that these men are emoting. Because a man is emoting does not mean that he's emotional by default or by nature. He's still being triggered by the pain that he's went through. So in free association, which is a psychoanalytic theory, you got to allow that man to emote. He got to free associate to get to that trauma. Because in order for a man to recover, he must uncover. He got to uncover so he can recover from the pain that impacted him in a negative way. But when black men and white men and all men begin to recover or uncover, then you get the imperial forces, which is the empire striking back. And April Mason is synonymous to a dark Sith or Sith Lord. She's trying to disband the strength of the force. Because even though April Mason has some good points, I told you guys on the show Tuesday that a whole truth, a whole lie is better than a half truth. I'm going to say it again. A whole lie is better than a half truth. And that's where the deception comes, because many men cannot decipher the deception because they're speaking truth mixed with errors. You're not going to find another licensed therapist in this space giving you comprehensive game like me. You're not going to find it. Because I've lost subscribers because many men won't touch this subject. That's why I tell you guys to share the content, because I'm doing this for the brotherhood. There are some women, not all, there's some good mature sisters that want to listen. They're quiet. They're listening to the pains of men. But there are some good sisters that are trying to listen and learn. There are some women coming to these spaces that are not trying to listen and learn. They're trying to disrupt the movement. There are some women that come in these spaces to get a husband, not for the sake of serving him, only because she's tired and lonely, and Christmas time and stepdaddy season's around the corner. Watch this. But I'm trying to empower you men. I'm trying to let you know that you are loved in other countries. Because I'm an advocate for world travel. I told you there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized, and world travel is one of those things. So we're going to have a conversation tonight because what I'm doing right now, guys, is imparting information through the 8 stages of group therapy. We're trying to band a force. We're trying to come together as a force. But that force cannot be materialized if men have an ego. Because the ego wants to win. The ego wants to be the top dog. It's in the nature of every man, including myself. But I would never become the top dog at the expense of my integrity as a man. I can't do that. Do I want to win? Yes. Do I want to help other men? No doubt. Do I want to get compensated for doing these timely shows that takes a lot of time and energy? Yes. Because if you're a content creator, you know where I'm coming from. It's very time consuming. But because I love you guys and I respect you guys and I love the brotherhood, that's why I do what I do. Because I don't want to see no man suffer in silence, about to turn to the dark side of his nature, which could be death, violence, or any other negative thing that can get him in trouble or land him in jail. I'd rather for you guys to go to the light side or use the force, which is discipline, which is the remodification of your thoughts, which is changing how you think about thinking. I'd rather see you go to the dark side instead of going light side instead of going to the dark side. The light side takes discipline. That's why Luke Skywalker, when he was being conditioned by Obi-Wan Kenobi, he had to go do discipline. And so if you're not ready to be disciplined, then you're going to be tempted to go to the dark side. I went to the dark side temporarily when I was going through my pain. That's why I'm doing these shows. That's why I became a licensed therapist. So we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to drop the link in a few minutes. The next stage of group therapy is something called corrective recapitulation. That's a fancy way of saying that a man must go through his past. It's a fancy way of saying that a man must go through his past to correct the things that kept him captured in his past. Corrective recapitulation is a fancy way of saying that a man must go through his past to help him deal with the things that rendered him hopeless from the past. That's one of the stages of group therapy. The next one is interpersonal learning. Many men are learning in these spaces. Many men that were in the stage of grief or more or less part of the red pill movement, which was rage, we're beginning to learn and to understand female nature, but also understand tendencies. Understanding female nature does not mean you hate women. You love women. But once again, you can either love them or you can see them for what they are, but you can't do both. And April Mason said it herself. You make money off our women and all women by lying to them. I love our women. That's why I won't lie. If I decide to lie, I can make a lot of money lying. I can make a lot of money lying to our women. But love don't tell lies. It just don't. Love does not tell lies, so I would rather tell our women the truth. Because that's what love is, telling the truth, speaking the truth in love. I'm not coming to our women in the spirit of condemnation, but I'm speaking in love. But once again, this is a males group that's been designated to empower men. So ladies, if you're coming into a male space, beware, because there are going to be some men, they're going to more or less be venting. There are going to be some angry men. There are going to be some balanced men. There are going to be some men that are indifferent. There are going to be some men that are still enraged. If you can't take the heat, don't come into the male space. No different than a man when he's going into a woman's space. She might be saying, black men ain't ish. Don't faze me because I know I'm not. I know I'm a man. So that's the cost of being in male spaces, guys. So we're going to drop the link in a minute. And then the last stage, guys, when I started the Manhood Chronicles, is something called a catharsis. I call it a group catharsis, where men come together to emote their pain. Many men are emoting now. They are emoting their pain due to the past hurts. And once again, I said that so many women want what's called kumbaya therapy, where they say, well, let's get over and heal. In theory, that's true, but it takes time, depending on the level of the pain that man has been through. Every man's temperament is different. Every man's worldview is different. Every man's culture is different. Every man's upbringing is different because there are many variables to this nuanced situation. So Don't let someone fool you into the misnomer that you just need to get over it, because that's a myth. You can't get over trauma. Trauma takes time. And depending on the level of trauma, it can take years. Sometimes it can take 2 years, because in therapy, many times, guys, most therapy is from what's called brief therapy, solution focused therapy, which could go up to like 6 months. 6 weeks, which is brief therapy or solution focused therapy. But then there's therapy it's done annually per year. Some therapy is 1 year, some therapy is 2 years. Some therapy could be damn near 7 to 8 years, depending on the trauma and the person willing to do the work. You got to do the shallow work. If you're not going to do the shallow work, you're not going to get the results that you want. So some people come into therapy think it's going to come in a couple of days. And listen, the reason why most men want black male therapists or male therapists that are masculine, because many times, many of our women and women in general have been conditioned to be, have been indoctrinated under liberal feminist theory therapists. They have not been conditioned to serve men. They have not been conditioned to do it. They're not going to give you comprehensive game from a black or a male perspective. They're going to tell you that you're the problem. You should try harder, because they don't see you as valuable. And that's why these shows are so important. Because my job is to empower you so you can be a force, so that you can band together with other men to tell their stories and to tell their pain. That's why I use the iconic symbols, because listen, guys, as a licensed therapist, if I told you guys all the technical inundations or the technical jargon with therapy, I would bore you to death. But I had to get creative to break down complex concepts, because it can be very complex. But I know that talking about what I'm talking about now, it will make you guys understand and see what I'm trying to say. So guys, to the 40 that are listening, please share the content. Let's get the stream up to 50. If you guys share this content, we can get the stream up to 50, which in essence will help the algorithm. We should have at least 50 to 100 people watching this stream tonight, because this is male empowerment. And guys, I love the 40 that are listening, but let me share something with you. The reason why our women do so well, because women support one another. I'm going to say it again. The reason why our women do so well, because women support one another. To the good brothers that have supported me, I love you and I respect you. But men don't support each other like they should. This channel should have been at 3,000 a long time ago. It should have been at 3,000 a long time ago. But it's not. And the reason why it's not, because every time I speak with this conviction, I lose a couple of subscribers, and it is what it is, because everybody's not going to like this message, and I understand. But this channel should have been at 3,000 a long time ago. And that's why I tell you guys to share it. Share it with 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 10 people. My homie Tim always tell you guys to share it. He says share the content. If you share it, then the message will get out. Because if you love men and love the brotherhood, you need to share this content. But once again, our women support one another. But brothers, we got to do better. We got to do better if we want to see men empowered. Because you're not going to see a black male masculine therapist in this space. I'm not a kumbaya therapist. I'm a male empowerment therapist that more or less give guys comprehensive learning from a black male perspective through clinical science and clinical research. That's what I do. And once again, some are not going to like it. And it is what it is. I take a risk doing what I'm doing. But because I love the brotherhood, I do what I do. So I'm going to drop the link in a minute, because we're going to talk about the force, because time is fleeting. We're going to talk about the force. Tim, I'm going to drop the link, homie. And I want you guys to call in, drop in, because we're going to have a conversation, all right? I need you guys to share this content. If you have not donated, donate. Shout out to my homeboy. Just gave me a $20 super chat. Hold tight. Let me call his name out. Thank you, sir. Let me find it. I thought somebody gave 20. Okay, well, maybe I was wrong. But anyway, I'm going to drop the link, so hold tight. And we're going to have a conversation. Because Kevin Samuels and the lead attorney brought a lot of clarity to this show tonight. And actually, I think he's streaming right now, ironically. But let's have a conversation, because this is a dialogue, not a monologue. Shout out to my man, the Narc Perspective. No doubt, brother, I have not forgot you. Thank you, brother, for the $20 super chat, brother. Thank you. Much love and blessings. The Narc Perspective. I have not forgotten you, brother. You're a Leo like me, too, so much love and blessings. I have not forgotten you, brother. We will have that conversation at some point. So thank you, brother. Much love and blessings, man. Thank you for your contributions to the show. Shout out to my man, Top Gun. Top Gun said thank you to the coach community for your work. We are slowly building an army and building a band of us brothers, sufferers of silence. It's anonymous, right? I'm beginning to build a brand or a force for black men. Yes, slowly building this army. Because listen, when you're beginning to get into the preparation stages of change, the ones that are not with you, let them go. You have to weed them out. Everybody can't be on this journey. So if they can't get with us and get with what we're trying to do as black men, they need to go because they're indoctrinated. They're going to slow up the movement. So, like I said, everyone can't understand what we're trying to do. Shout out to my friend, the young crab, Chris Asu. Save yourself, black man. That's my young homie. Chris was the original designer of my shirt. But I got one of my brothers from my high school. He did this, and this is Grind Hard, Sleep Less. He's gonna be on my show next week. He's my homie. This shirt was very expensive, but you can tell by the quality, almost $200. But it's lit. It's quality, high quality. It's embroidered. So he did a great job. My man D. Williams. Go check him out from Grind Hard, Sleep Less. All right. So I'm gonna bring the Ingram experience on in a minute. Hold tight, guys. We're gonna have a conversation because this is a show for the empowerment of black men. Thank you once again. So guys, get the likes up. And we're gonna talk about this whole fiasco. All right. Shout out to my man, the Ingram experience. How you doing, brother? And how would you like to add to the clarity of the show real quick? How would you like to add, brother?
Hey, salute, brother. Can you hear me, bro?
Yes, sir. I can hear you good. And I apologize, guys. Earlier, I was running off at the mouth. I had this thing on mute, and I got all this equipment. Sometimes I get lost in the sauce. But what would you like to do? How would you like to add to men coming together, banding a force, and why, like the lead attorney, as I used the thumbnail, use the force. Why do black men need to use the force and to use the brotherhood to make that force stronger?
I think it's absolutely necessary because the first problem we have in Black America, as you see with April Mason trying to legislate male attraction, is that they always believe that black men should take less,
right?
Subjugate ourselves, no matter how hard you work and how successful you are. And there's very few people in this space. I know, like I said, the coach, that advocate, promote, empowerment of black men so that men can see their value. Because the reason why April Mason is so delusional is because somehow she has this sense of value that's not put in check. And I think that's the problem in the community in terms of getting our men to expect less, accept less, and be altruistic in how we sacrifice ourselves for this so-called greater good.
What are you getting from the conversation? Because one of the 8 stages of group therapy is universality. Universality means we all share a common bond. What are you seeing as a common bond that many men are sharing in these spaces based on what you see?
I think most men are understanding that we're not getting the respect that we need from women, from our community. We're not getting the representation for our views, what's going on in our minds, what's happening to us personally. We're not getting the type of advocacy that you're putting out. That I read the comment. I can guarantee you have no experience in everything you're talking about, which is exactly. That's the example of what you get right there in these types of spaces. But at the end of the day,
Cortez is a brother. He's a good friend of mine. But I don't know the essence of the conversation. But I'm just going through the comments. But go ahead.
Yeah. I think in general, black men need to come together because there's the only way that we're going to ever have this level of standards. And guys, the biggest thing I see is that guys don't set standards for what they want in life. And you have people like April Mason will try and rebrand himself and try and get men to accept less. So guys need to come together so they can raise the standard for what we should expect for our lives.
Guys, listen, let's get this show up to at least 2,400 subs tonight. Go check out my man, the Ingram Experience. He's new and upcoming. He's one of my homeboys. I'm going to show you a clip. But let's get this stream up to 50 to 100 people tonight. Share the content. Let's get this channel to 3,000. I want you to send it to all men, white men, because even though I advocate for black men, I advocate for all men. Don't get it twisted. My first responsibility is the advocacy of the black man. But I also advocate for white men and Asian men or whoever, because there's an attack on masculinity. It's been going on for years, and many therapists are not going to attack it because it's not PC. I'm taking a risk talking about it as a licensed clinical therapist that went to one of the best schools in the country. But listen, when you have a love for the brotherhood, you do what's necessary so that you don't see those men suffering in silence. And just like many therapists do things through the white feminist theory lens, I'm doing things from a black masculine perspective. And so because I love the brothers, I need you guys to love me back, share this content, as I said earlier. Ingram, when did you did you ever go do a red pill rage as a man? And if you did, when did you go do your red pill rage?
I think my thing when I went through my red pill rage is my issues with child custody and child support. Mm-hmm. I remember back even when I filed for divorce and got out of a marriage. When did you go do your red pill rage? I think I noticed, I had to fight very hard battle to get custody of my kid. Mm-hmm. A lot of underhanded things were done to tamper with custody, getting sued for child support, even though I was paying a certain amount of child support. That's when I had my red pill rage, because one of the reasons why I left out of there, because obviously I wasn't getting along with that person. There was a very combative type relationship. So for me to have mental peace, right, and to, enjoy, my life, I had to, do what I had to do to make sure that I was, happy and healthy and whatever else. So I wasn't dealing with the stress every day. I was one of those guys that, would avoid going home, work a lot of hours to avoid being at the house. So for me, I didn't understand, as a guy who's supposed to be a good guy, doing what you're supposed to do for your family, but obviously there's two sides to every story. But why I was having such, negative feedback in the household, so much, I would say, attempted mutiny every day. So for me, that's when I had my red pill rage phase. That's when I started getting into the, the online stuff, the Tom Likas stuff and all this stuff, just to understand, really learn female nature.
Right. And that's the imparting of information. I think most men, due to them going through pain, had their red pill moment or their awakening when they begin to see the world for what it really is. And that's why these spaces are so needed, guys, because I don't want to see another man lose his life because he took his life because he thought, women were one thing, but when he finally awakened and opened his eyes, he saw them as something totally different. I said in the past, it appears that many times the world don't care about the pain of men. They just suffer in silence and just deal with it, which in essence is not healthy. Ace, how would you like to add to this conversation with the lead attorney and using the symbolism about the force? Why is the force so necessary? Because the force can be dark or the force can be good. The light side is harder than the dark side. But what do you get from this conversation, Ace?
Honestly, now, whenever you ask the question on the bottom where it says, when Western men need to unite for brotherhood, can they be a force? Yes, they can. Mm-hmm. Now, I know this may sound like an over-exaggerating, but I really think that, if like humanity is at stake, it really, really is. And if we embrace our masculinity again, we can bring balance to the world again. Right.
Balance to the force. We can be balanced back to the force.
So, balance to the force. And the reason why I say, Western men need to unite, and it's just men all over the world, is, in Rollo Tomasi's latest book, he wrote the book Religion, how a lot of these leftist ideologies are starting to infiltrate the churches and religious institutions. And it's not only affecting just African-American and male community, it's not just affecting the Hispanic community or white community, but these leftist and feminist ideologies are bleeding everywhere.
Right, it's everywhere. Right, I totally agree.
And you see in Saudi Arabia, like now they're allowing women to be more free, and it's not about being women, or it's not about being against women's freedom, but we have to understand, like, we're kind of open up Pandora's box. Mm-hmm. If we do that, like if you kind of understand, like we talk about understanding the nature of women, they make their decisions based on emotions, and they're very in the moment creatures. Mm-hmm. They don't always think in the long term. They're very drawn to instant gratification, hence why they're very drawn to like social media, how many likes they get on their booty pics or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we need to really unite together, as men and start helping each other.
Right. And, as I said earlier, one of the greatest indictments of men coming together is the male ego. Ingram played basketball. He's 6'7". I'm 6'6". Well, if you add the shoes, I'm 6'6". And, men want to win, And so sometimes our ego can stop us from coming together as men. There are men that listen to the kosher clinician that don't believe in everything I believe in, and I'm okay with that. I'm open enough to allow you to share your perspective, but as long as you're respectful, because if you get disrespectful, I'm going to get rid of you. But there are men in this space that don't agree with everything I say, and I'm okay with that. But because there is a crisis in heteronormative masculinity, it's time for men to come together and share their pain. I talked about it earlier, Ingram and Ace, about something called a kumbaya moment. Many times when men share their pain to deal with their hurt, sometimes women just want you to get over it and heal and move on. And as I've said in therapy, it does not always work that way. It does not always work in this get over and move on. Depending on the level of trauma, because some men have been through what's called chronic trauma, it can be years of embedded trauma. I see it all the time. So you're not going to get over embedded trauma over years. People that have what's called dissociative personality disorders, they can go do years of free associating, where they just anything that comes to mind, they free associated with it. They might hear mama. So when you hear men cussing and using bad words sometimes, they're free associating, because they are dealing with the pain from the past that many times was impacted upon them by women. I've heard men tell me they were molested by women, but we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about it. So when did you come to your red pill moment, Ace? When did you come to that understanding of the nature of the current world that we live in?
Well, it all started off as a kid, because the thing is like, in the 90s, we would watch, maybe even start in the 80s, but we would watch these movies of like, oh, the guy, buying flowers for the girl, treating her right. And, we believed all those love stories back then. But then we would come to reality and see that things didn't work that way. I had to sit here and, I would watch like maybe an aunt or a relative getting married like 2 or 3 times. And I was thinking in my head, like, wait a second, she's been married 3 times. I thought when they say, I do, and that's when the happy ending comes and they're supposed to last forever. But the next, you find out that certain individual, like the woman, she ends up sleeping with somebody else. So it's like, I noticed that this thing isn't working that way. And then not just that, but coming on to later, later on in my life, through dating, seeing women's behavior, I've been on both the cheated on side and, I've had women offer to cheat with me and things like that, So, and then also just, trying to watch like about certain dating coaches and things like that back then. It just seems like it was always geared towards the women.
Right.
Like kind of placating to women. But then finally,
right.
When I found the red pill space and, we're starting to learn the actual female nature, that's what really woke me up. Because it's like, okay, all these experiences and things that I've seen that, I was always like kind of skeptical of working, this kind of answers my question as to why this didn't work this way.
Right. And you know what? You made an excellent point, because there's a lot of bias in therapy, because therapy is normally fed through the white feminist theory lens. That goes back to these liberal groups that you're talking about. And many times they don't address the needs of men. They don't even talk about the needs of men, because many times it's about female empowerment, but you never hear them talking about male empowerment. And the sad thing is, guys, that many times black men and black women were mules of the same cause. We were part of the same burden of Jim Crow racism. But they don't talk about that. And so what you guys is getting from me is unique. We can talk about the salaciousness all we want. We can talk about celebrity news, that's fine. But until you get to the core of the matter, until you get to understanding how your thought process determine how you think about yourself, until you understand negative socialization, you're not going to remodify how you think about yourself. And that's why I do what I do, because my job is to empower black men. I went to one of the best schools in the country, very liberal. Doesn't get any better than UNC Chapel Hill. But at the same time, as much as I love my alma mater, I didn't let my alma mater change me at my core values. I didn't. Many times our women go to school and they become indoctrinated by what Ace said is leftist talking points. And they come out totally different. They're coming out seeing men in history as bad. And so, guys, that's why I tell you guys to let's get this train moving. Let's get this channel to 3,000. If you get time, go check out my man, the Ingram Experience. I'm about to add a clip that he did here recently, talking about empowerment. Because it's time for men to get empowered. It's time for black men to know what their worth is, but not only black men, but all men. Let me ask you a question, Ace. Did you go do a catharsis? Did you go to a moment in time or a period in time when you were suffering through pain? And if so, let's tell the audience about it.
So yes, I did go through pain. I do pay child support. I do have a daughter, and also relation. Now I've never been married. I've been close to it, but the time I was close to getting married, finding out that the woman was with somebody else, had feelings for somebody else and things like that, being cheated on and things like that. So it's like, I treated the woman well. I did this, what I was told that I was supposed to do, and maybe what I saw my uncles and my family, doing from my aunts or my mom or, whoever back then. But when I did it, it didn't work for some reason.
Right. And it's important. So guys, I'm gonna go back over the 8 stages of group therapy once again. Universality, that's when men come together and share their story. Altruism, meaning we understand and share, and we understand the importance of humanity. Group cohesiveness, when men come together and we start forming in groups. Installation of hope. Many men are trying to find hope through their brokenness. The next one is imparting information. What you're seeing now is men sharing the same story or sharing the information. Corrective recapitulation, which is a fancy way of saying men are going back to their past to recapture the times of their life when they were more or less locked in to the trauma that they dealt with, now only to get over it by men coming together and talking about it. Interpersonal learning, where now we begin to learn about female nature. It doesn't mean we hate women, we just see women for what they are. They're human. And then also a catharsis where men are emoting. And that's why you begin to see so many men in these spaces emoting, because men are in different stages of their grief. Kubler-Ross talked about it earlier, as I said earlier, the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, anger, bargaining, depression, and then the last stage is acceptance. Every man deal with that stage in his own way. So when people come to these male spaces and say, oh, why these men are start dealing with whatever? Because these men are emoting. They're dealing with their pain. And some have not gotten over it because we don't know the level of their trauma. That's why therapy is so important. But we can't use a broad brush and say, get over and move on and say, damn, kumbaya. It doesn't work that way. It's very nuanced. Yeah, go ahead, Ingram. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, kosher brother. And one of the things I've seen so strange about a lot of these spaces too is that when you this idea that we talked about conditional femininity, that our men, despite being honorable men, working hard, being good men, have to go above and beyond to get femininity from women, which is supposed to be their nature.
Right, it's supposed to be their
and
nature.
That's the thing we talk about with all these liberal therapists. Mm-hmm. Everything comes back to being the man's fault.
Right.
And you're not getting this because you're not doing this and you're not doing this, because this all this idea of conditionality and us being altruistic in our nature. But and you've talked about it from other cultures and that have traditional women that come to the table with that femininity intact. That's their nature. You talk about the brothers, the Mexican brothers, their women work, come home, and their femininity is expectation. And what I see a lot of time is in these spaces, they're trying to hold men accountable. Mm-hmm. But we've been holding men are held accountable, period. We're holding men accountable forever.
Right.
But there's nothing, I don't think it's, there are some brothers that have been conditioned to be unconscious simps, like you have described. Mm-hmm. But I think in general, in other cultures, men don't have to be cracking this intellectual whip every day to get women to do what they're supposed to do. Right. And that seems to be the greatest problem that you see now in a lot of these spaces.
Yeah, it's a lot of rebellion, man. It's a lot of rebellion because many of these women were raised in single parents homes where they never saw masculine authority. And when they see it, they equivocate all masculine authority with Mr. on the color purple. If a man raises his voice, he's Mr. If a man demand respect, he's Mr. They want a soft man. They want a happy-go-lucky man to say, okay, honey, yes, dear. They want one of those kind of men. But the same women that say they love Jesus don't understand that Jesus spoke with great authority. He told the woman at the well, he said, woman, go sin no more. He didn't say, man, please stop sinning. He said, woman, don't sin again. He spoke with great power and conviction. And so women say they want masculine men, but they want masculine men in accord to the fickle nature or how they see men in their own head. And what men are saying is that we're not going to do that. Shout out to Casual Durban for the $2 super chat. Support our black men and academics as this we grow this space. Yes, and the only way, guys, we can grow this space if you guys share the content. I wish I had 100 people looking at this show tonight because it's a good show, but such is life. I got to move on, man. But
so something I wanted to mention too is that
yes,
like brother Ingram experience mentioned. So also the Eastern cultures, what it is that they hold their women accountable. Mm-hmm. See, the thing is if you look at the way things are here in the West, right? So if a man cheats, he's a pig, he's a dog, right? But see, if a woman cheats on a man, they still want to point the finger at the man, saying, "No, you didn't give her enough attention. You didn't do this. You didn't do that." See, over there, women, and it's like also too, like even after she gets divorced, and even though she cheated on the man, her and her friends are going to go out and they're going to go celebrate divorce parties, things like that. It's kind of celebrated here in the Western side of the world, but over in the Eastern side, like it's a shame for a woman to get divorced or cheated on her, cheat on her husband. Mm-hmm. So that's a real big problem here. And that's why things are so successful over there as far as relationships in the East.
No, I totally agree. Guys, when I think about the force to me is symbolic of the force. The force to me is a symbolism. And there are internal factors that can create this force, such as the gynocracy. Do you guys see the correlation between the imperial forces in Star Wars and the current gynocracy that we live in? Do you guys see a correlation? If so, let's talk about it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they're trying to just program us as just simps, basically. I mean, you see that with this whole idea. Even when guys talking about this on this treadmill of happiness or happy wife, happy life type situation, that's what we see in this country. This idea that men have to subjugate themselves and for women's happiness, it's absolutely ridiculous. And like you said, there's very few people in this man's space. I know you're here that actually talk about empowering men that fight against the gynocracy, that fights against this force. Mm-hmm. And it's prevalent because you know how it is. Sometimes to make money, you got to lie. Unfortunately,
you got to lie. It's true. Right.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think about what I said, Ace, about external factors such as the gynocracy could be symbolic of the force? What's your take on that?
I mean, it's so true. I mean, it's like pretty much from what I've seen, is now that we went into a gynocentric kind of social order, it's like things are going into chaos. Mm-hmm. It really, really is. And we need to bring back masculinity, no matter how much we're shamed for it, no matter how much, the media, how much, women try to go against us, we need to bring that balance towards, to the world. We really need to unite together.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, that's going to happen too when guys got to understand, sometimes what happens with men is they're insensitive to other men. If especially if you're winning, some guy might be winning in a situation. He don't care about that guy over there. You see that with divorce too, where guys are not really compassionate to the other man suffering a lot of times. But if we are going to ever come together and we're going to set a standard, I mean, guys are going to have to come together and help each other out when they're suffering. When you guys are having difficult times, suffering with depression, going through issues in relationships. Many times guys need to pick up the phone and talk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's really what needs to happen.
Guys, mute yourself to the ones that are listening. What's up, Sam Hecht? How you doing, brother? First time meeting you. Salute, brother. What's going on? So how would you like to add to the conversation about the need to have group therapy, but also to talk about this ongoing fiasco with the lead attorney, Kevin Samuels, and April Mason, and the dark side? Because the force is strong. The force is strong when women can see true heteronormative masculinity. What's your take on the conversation, brother?
Yeah. So the reason. Well, firstly, props and thanks to the panel.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for letting me in.
No
I
doubt.
appreciate that.
No doubt. No problem.
You are wisdom. In its all, and I'm learning.
Right. Well, I'm glad.
I start talking. I'm
glad,
learning,
brother.
right?
I'm glad. Thank you, sir. Right.
the thing is I understand where men come from and our standpoint and the whole manosphere and all that's going on. And I am a bit controversial. I do understand that. But we are living in a different time. We are living in a different world. And it's like pushback, I think, like generally and emotionally from everybody, because of what we've been through in the last couple of years. And to push further than that, to say our dynamic with women it's just been a completely different spectrum in terms of what we've usually had to deal with for the last 10 or 20 years, maybe 30, 40 years. So that's not going to go backwards. Are we as men going to sort of line up and go, okay, we need to sort of like get a grip and understand that this is not something that, you know, there's so many, like I'll take 20% of women that will go, okay, we'll fall into this line. But then you're left with 80% who you're going to have to convince. Is that actually going to happen? Given that, you know, and over what period of time is that going to happen?
Right. Well, I don't see it happening, man, in our lifetime. A lot of these chicks are chameleons. They're charlatans. They really don't have the heart.
I don't know about that. I mean, this is the thing. Like chameleon charlatans, I get. Like, I get the fact that we're men and we have to sort of go, okay, boom. But they are women. Like at the end of the day, like, what if you're going to just have so much pushback that you're going to go, we're not accepting this? What are we going to do as a black race? Because ultimately, if you're talking about 80% pushback, and you're going to go, okay, we're not going to do nothing about it, we're just going to push them back. What is actually going to happen? And like on a bigger scale, why is that happening?
Why is what happening? Why is what happening? What do you mean?
We need to embrace. I think black men need to sort of get a bit of an education on what's going on. Like, I think that's something that we have turned around and gone, okay, we've acknowledged certain things. Good. Okay. Right. Let's gather in a room. Let's turn around and have a conversation about it. Good. That's good. But we're more intelligent than that. Let's turn around and do what we did 40, 50 years ago and go, okay, we're in this position. We need to lead. Right? Not argue, lead. Because at the moment, all I'm hearing is arguments. It's just like, you know, everyone's just.
Well, see, Simon, I think your heart is right, brother. But you can't lead when the infrastructure is not conducive. You can lead at a micro level, yes. In your individual home, yes. But it's greater than the micro level. It got to be at the macro level in order for it to be effective. Can you lead at a lower level? Yes, in theory, you should be able to lead in your home. But when you got rules and laws against you, it's hard to lead. Other countries don't have this issue. When you go to Africa, when you go to Brazil, when you go to other countries in Africa, the women are in line because the government supports the men. The government here in America does not support men. So in theory, what you're saying is true, just lead, but it's not that simple. Now, you can take micro steps by having demands. If she doesn't adhere, you move on or you just leave her. But overall, we got to have it at the macro level first in order for it to be effective at the micro level. We're talking about short-term solutions. My job is to come up with solutions for the long term. So your heart is right. You mean well, but it's a lot more nuanced than what you're saying, brother.
Kosher, can I say something to the brother? Here's the deal, okay?
Right.
My dating market is the globe. So for me, I'm into relationship capitalism. which is that if you're not what I want, I'll go somewhere else and get it.
Right.
So the solution to that is there's black women that, if you're interested in black women or women of different races that are everywhere around the world. And if the women around your environment, if guys are working hard on their purpose in school, getting their education, making their money, I would say I don't try to change anybody. So my solution is, if you don't compete, I'll just get somebody else to do the job.
Right.
And I will find a traditional woman that fits into what I want for life. I'll use my resources that I've earned, and I will go somewhere where there's women that are like that, or I'll import one that's like that. I'm not going to change anybody. I'm not going to do anything. They're not working to change us. It's just, if I want a black woman, I'll go get one from a country or somewhere that respects them.
Right.
I'm not going to. I don't think what we're talking about is changing nothing. What we're talking about is men banding together, supporting each other, and understanding our options and empowering ourselves to make choices, to use capitalism, to use your options. We're not talking. I come from a position of victimology. I study the environment and the issues that make you a victim. We're not victims. We're empowered.
Right.
This is about empowerment. So my empowerment is that I'm not going to listen to women's issues in America. I'm just going to shop the market, the women that fit the criteria, and then I will give those women my attention. I'm not interested in fixing them or having dialogue with them. If you have to compete, you'll change.
Right.
That's just the way capitalism is. You don't compete, you go out of business.
Right. That's true. That is very true. Let me ask you a question, Hector Simon. When did you go through your catharsis? And before you tell me, Simon, shout out to my man Black One Man 316 for the $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Keep up that fire. No doubt, I'm trying to keep that fire up. I'm trying to help you guys become the best versions of yourself, because I'm trying to give you
fire for your mind.
Fire for your mind.
The culture.
Because when you get that fire for your mind, you will no longer continue to defer power. You start demanding it. And that's why we have these shows, man. It's time for men to start demanding their power. So Simon, you sound like you sound like a Brit, or you sound like you're from I think the United Kingdom. When did you come to? You're from London. When did you come to the moment, Simon, when you saw female nature for what it was, brother?
Sorry, repeat that. The last bit.
When did you come to your epiphany about female nature?
Well, I've got 5 sisters, bro. I saw it in the making, so it's I had the opportunity to sit back. Not, I guess, like, I don't know, like a lot of men, like, maybe did not have the opportunity. So I was fortunate enough to sort of see. I'm the youngest of my clan, so I was fortunate enough to see things roll out, and then make my own decisions about what kind of relationships I was going to get involved in and what it was. And I wasn't sort of like skeptical. I did sort of roll into it and with full optimism. But it just played out how it was. And 10 years later, same thing. You know what I mean? And it's, I don't know if I want to say it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's like, there comes a point where it's like, how long do you want to bang your head against a brick wall? Right. You know, it's like, it's not like to discourage or discount. It's just, it is what it is until that turns, until the wheel turns, right? I was continuously in boardrooms, and they were saying to me, you can't reinvent the wheel. Okay. Right. So when we're talking about black women, I am full force in terms, because I've got daughters, I am full force in terms of, I want that to change. I want the world to change. But the fact of the matter is it changing?
Right.
What, and why is it not changing? If we have an issue with it and people are talking about it in that sort of sense, so it's like, you know, what are we able to do about it? That's where I want to come to. I want to come to sort of like having these conversations about not, oh yeah, this is this, brick wall bang. Okay,
Well,
right. So
well, it's simple, Simon Hector. It depends on how invested you are in the relationship. You walk away. It's literally that simple. Either she meets your expectations and demands as a man, or you walk away. Listen, in behavior modification, it should be an equilibrium, right? Where you benefit and where she benefits. But like Ted Pendergrass said in the past, and I like using that quote, it's good to love somebody and somebody to love you back. It must be an equilibrium. If you're giving her or more or less capitulating to her demands, then she's getting stronger and you're getting weaker. In behavioral modification, you got to benefit and she got to benefit. But it becomes positive reinforcement where she benefits. It becomes negative reinforcement when you don't benefit. Every time she snap her finger and you jump like a goofball, not saying you're a goofball, then she wins. And so instead of her respecting you as a man, she begins to lose respect. And so when you hear these goofy men dragging their knuckles talking about happy wife, happy life, that's the making of the unconscious simp. A lot of boomers were unconscious simps because they drag their knuckles and say, well, I'm gonna do what my wife said. You know, my wife said, you know, no, we're not gonna do what no wife say. You're the man of your home. She gotta earn the right to be your wife. That's what other cultures demand. And the reason why women don't demand anything in American culture, because American men have low self-esteem. They don't demand anything. Frederick Douglass said it better than me. Power never conceded to anything without a struggle. It never have, and it never will. So you have to demand what you want as a man if she's going to get your provision and your protection. If she don't want it, you walk away. You come up with an extra strategy. You first, before you walk away, you tell her what your demands are. But if she keeps being rebellious, you go do corrective steps. And those corrective steps look different to different men. But inevitably, if she doesn't change, you got to get rid of her. It's literally that simple. It's literally that simple.
I understand.
Can I say something to this, brother?
Go ahead. Uh-huh.
The biggest issue you have here, especially in America may Britain's below. I don't know the statistics of Great Britain or London, but over 70% of our kids are born to single parents here in America, in the Black race. Mm-hmm. A lot of our boys are raised without a father. And a lot of Black men, out of loyalty and obligation to their mothers, don't choose women outside of our race, or don't choose women outside of our culture, because a lot of them feel like they're going to disappoint their mothers.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is emancipate those boys and let them know that, hey, you've worked hard, you've done well, and you have to use what you have developed to get the best results for you. And don't let other people, because they always talk about Black men as altruists, even the successful ones, sacrificing themselves for the community and for everybody else, and that their happiness is not a priority.
Right.
So the biggest issue we have in terms of women in our community is that we're not willing to execute relationship capitalism because of loyalty to our mothers. Mm-hmm. And what we're trying to say is it's okay. You know what? You're not disappointing your mother by getting the best woman for you, regardless of culture or race. You want to get the best person for you, and that's the standard. So what we're trying to do is set the standard for what is quality. And sometimes this obligation that we have to our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers, that we want to have somebody that looks like them, whatever else, and behaves like them, puts us at a disadvantage.
Puts us at a disadvantage, right.
You know, and I think that's the fundamental issue we have in this country. But I think if men come together, like the co-chair is talking about, you can break this cycle. And now, instead of taking the mediocrity that's being sold here in the Western culture, and even in where you're at, you know, I don't care. I'll get a woman from Brazil. I'll get a woman from Colombia. I'll get a woman from the village in Africa. I don't care. As long as she meets these qualities of I don't care. I'll jump on a plane and go and get them. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to take these masculine women. I won't do it. I just won't do it. And I think when men take a stand and not try to fix anything, just go get somebody that meets the standard, that has been raised to be a feminine, traditional woman. If you're not going to sell me what I want, I'm going to go get it somewhere else. If you're not going to give me what I want, I'm going to get it somewhere else. What is the point of working hard and making money and saving and investing in yourself if you can't even get a quality? You know, you got to go where they're serving the quality. You know?
Right. You got to go with that serving equality, and remember, guys, it's a buyer's market. Men determine who they marry. They don't. If a man is a one and a woman is a one, if that one say he doesn't want that woman is a one, then that woman won't get married. And watch this. I'm Simon Hectic, Ace, and Ingram. If every woman in America didn't get married, every black woman attempted to get married, 2 million still would not have a husband. So black men have the power. They have the power. They have the power to decide. Shout out to the Casual Observer for $5 super chat, and also for the Mark. I'm just showing a little support. Casual Observer said, in my affluent suburb, many homes are owned by low-wage Indians, clerks, attendants. Families allow them to surpass generational black citizens. And it's a shame, right? Because those men demand heteronormative masculinity and patriarchy. So, Simon, you are correct about men leading. You're correct. But leading does not always mean you bring her back into your fold. Leading sometimes means, okay, I'm going to lead with my feet. I'm just going to walk the hell away. You just walk away. You don't talk. You don't argue with her. You don't keep talking to her. You just pack your bags up and you walk away, man. You walk away. Shout out to my man. Give me a minute. Diego F.A. But before we start, hold on, Simon. I'm going to show you guys something because Ingram did a good video. And we're going to play it in a minute. But Ingram's video makes a lot of sense. When a man decides to get married, he's taking a great risk. That's why men are so are weary when, of some of these chameleons, because there are good women in these spaces like Sweet Lulu Bing, good sisters that are trying to learn. But see, Lulu Bing is from Africa. She's from an African culture where she's used to being raised under a patriarchal culture. But many of our women are not used to that because they grew up in the matriarchy. And so when a man decides to divest or invest in a woman, losing his power through divorce can be very deleterious to his psyche as a man. It can cause that man to implode within, because I said that a broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. And so that's why we need to band together as a force of black men to make sure we get the outcomes that we want. Because the force is broken when black men are not banding together, not just black men, all men. My show is the advocacy of all men. At some point, I want to see white men looking at the culture clinician. No doubt. Because guess what? Ingram? White men are suffering in silence too. And even though some will say, well, they're our adversaries, well, listen, sometimes white men are your greater allies than your own kin. I hate to say it, but it's true. So I'm an advocate for all men, but I have a special heart for brothers. Because black men have unique situations. Simon, I see you over there laughing, man. What's so funny, Simon? You over there just laughing.
No, you are king. Like, you are king. I'm just draining the knowledge in. I'm just like,
okay. Okay.
The kosher raises the price, man.
Talk, man. It I appreciate you. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you for listening. But I'm gonna play this video by Ingram. Guys, go check out the Ingram experience. Ingram is new, but he's my brother, and I support him. I don't normally do this because I'm very competitive, but I love Mr. Ingram, and he's my homie. So I want you guys, Mr. Ingram, I'm competitive. I want you guys to look at this video. Hold tight.
Guys, I want you to check out this young brother on this clip and his comments on marriage. Very profound statement. A lot of wisdom from this young man. I salute him. I'm proud of him. Without further ado, let the clip play.
For the guy, why didn't you marry her? Or why don't you marry her?
Because you didn't earn it. I speak for the men when I say a failed marriage is a loss for men. It drastically changes your life for the worse. And all men really ask is that you're at least worth the risk. There are these BS concepts on this site, like a man will waste years of your life while looking for the girl of his dreams. Like, no, a man will spend years in a relationship waiting for you to become the girl of his dreams because he's already pretty much chosen you for that position. All he wants is for you to unlock that next level of commitment. But that will require humility. That will require you to let go of this take me as I am mentality, because I can tell you, a man that doesn't respect himself will take you as you are. He won't require you to prove yourself. But a man that respects himself, a man that's masculine, a man that has any respect and reverence for the Most High will make you earn the prestigious position of wife. If you haven't earned it, you won't get it.
Like this brother mentioned in the clip, a man who respects himself, a man who knows his value, a man who respects the Most High, it's not going to just sign over his life or give up his life for a woman that just doesn't meet the standard or doesn't live up to those expectations of a wife. So when a lot of people ask questions about men and why men aren't married, why there's 54% of black men that are single and unmarried. I think this gentleman, young man, answers the question. So for you guys, I want you to take this in mind. The Ingram Experience in this channel, we support you guys. Stay strong, stay positive. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe, guys. This channel is about empowering men, but also we support the ladies as well. But I think the men are where we need to put most of the effort in right now. There's enough channels on the internet that cater to women. So guys, enjoy your day.
All right, we got the Ingram Experience dropping some gems. Go check out the Ingram Experience, his new YouTube channel, guys. That's my brother. But what do you guys get from what Ingram was saying? Because marriage is a great investment. So Diego F.A., you sound like you're Nigerian, brother. Cam up. Some of you brothers got them avatars on cam up, man. I don't know what I'm looking at, man. I hope I'm looking at some of y'all brothers need to cam up, man. Y'all brothers ain't on cam up. Go on cam up. I need to see some faces, man. Y'all might be the FBI. But Diego F.A. There ain't gonna F.A. trying to act like he's Nigerian, man. You know you ain't know you got no Nigerian swag, man. I listen, I'm American, but I got some Nigerian roots. I'm 48% Nigerian, man. But go ahead, there you go. What are you getting from this conversation, brother, about the lead attorney Kevin Samuels and the importance of group therapy, but also why black men and men in general should be a force against the forces of the gynocracy? What's your take on this conversation?
Okay. Well, greetings to the panel.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me on. I actually grew up in the UK and was listening to Simon Hectic, so it kind of piqued my interest. I wanted to kind of add another angle, or should I say another perspective. To answer your first question about the whole April Mason thing, to be honest, I only really heard about her kind of recently when she sort of announced that she wasn't going to help women anymore. I mean, and with that, I kind of found it a bit suspicious because she has no real track record in getting results for men. So I found it suspicious. I don't know her, but I just found it a bit conspicuous. And of course, when this new sort of brouhaha kind of sprung up, where she's saying that men are the what did she say now? She said men are the accessory,
the byproduct, the byproduct.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I just found that absurd. Part of sort of my interest in the manosphere and stuff is because a lot of the women in the UK, I don't know if they have this kind of mindset as if they're also American. I know they're not, but America, I guess it might be down to manifest destiny, but it really has spread its influence globally, and the UK is almost like a sponge and soaking up a lot of that information. So what I'm saying effectively is sort of referencing that is the stuff that April Mason said, that very sentiment is evident in this country, in the UK, and it's particularly evident among a lot of the British Nigerian women too. So for me, I think part of their sort of view is based on the kind of men they've had in their life, or shall I say the relationships, and probably more crucially, the influences that they've had from other women.
Right.
And so because of that, I guess in a sense, many of them have benefited from this whole sort of gynocratic or pseudo-gynocratic environment. And so that, you know, most of them are doubling down. I mean, Kevin Samuels, as most of us know, has kind of had, you know, created ripples across the globe, obviously in America primarily, but certainly beyond the shores of America.
Right.
But even so, there's a lot of women that are willing to double down. And what I find interesting in the UK, I think Simon mentioned that he asked the question, what's going to happen to the race? I don't want to sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Divert attention to sort of plug in anything I'm doing, but I am writing a book, which I'm releasing this month.
Yes, sir. Tell the people about it. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, sure. So my book is coming out at the end of the month. It's called Ethnic Escapism and the Black Burden. So part of it, I look at like the diasporic experiences for Black people. So that includes Black Americans, Black West Indians, and then also Black West Indians or Caribbean people, I should say, that moved across to the UK. And also, obviously, the more recent arrivals from Africa to the UK. So I look at the different experiences. One of the key things that does sort of come up is the declines in the Black population in the Western world. So in America, as it stands, other things equal, the black population kind of peaked in the 1980s. What I mean by that, in absolute figures, the number is more or less doubled since 1980, but the percentage as a total of the entire population is only moved 1%. Back in the 80s, the black Americans were the second highest demographic after white people. They're now the third. Of course, there's many things that have been attributed to that. I don't mention this in the book, by the way, but I know abortions, which is a kind of contentious issue, is obviously part of the reason why that is so, and there's some other factors. In the UK, it also appears there's some decline as well, because you can split the black UK subpopulation, if you will, into two segments. You've got your black Africans and you have your black Caribbean. The Caribbean population, they started coming in the late 1940s, and their sort of rates are now starting to decline. They peaked between 2001 and 2011. And although the African segment, which is a lot more diverse, hasn't peaked yet, it appears it's going to, simply because the birth rate is dropping among them. So why I've sort of wrote the book, I think there's a sort of many instances of identity crises going on that also informs the mating choices. And also I think there's a bit of a confusion, not so much in America, because I think in the black manosphere, which is obviously American, there's a lot of forward thinking people, a lot of just listening to you earlier on the panel, yourself and the other gentleman that you plugged. Is it Ingram? If I said it.
Yeah, Mr. Ingram. Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's certain concepts you said that are really cerebral and really, I guess, in a sense, influenced me to come up. But we don't have the same kind of intellectual culture, even on sort of some of the other black male YouTubers. So what I was going to say was, slightly lost my train of thought, but I'll come back to it. So there's a bit more understanding of your identity as black Americans. In the UK, on the other hand, because there's too much of a reliance on black America. I mean, part of that you probably indexed by the listeners that, if you yourself, other people in the manosphere, you attract quite a lot of British black male sort of listeners, and that's because of a vacuum. There's a vacuum. So there's some, sometimes when you try to fit round pegs in square holes, I think it is, that's the case in the UK. I mean, sure, there are some things which are inevitable. The whole sort of, like liberal ideologies have also spread, to the spread to the UK that has been there for at least 5 decades now. I date it back to at least 1970 when the Black British Panthers, they sort of disbanded, and the women within that now transitioned more towards sort of feminism and political lesbianism. Sorry, that's like another topic altogether.
You're on point though, brother. You're on point.
Yeah. So I mean, look, we're all looking for answers in one way, and this should I say, platform is, I appreciate the platform anyway.
I appreciate you.
Additional others. And so, I mean, not to sort of ramble, but what I would say is that there is a lot that the UK black people, I suppose, can learn from yourselves, but I do think that there needs to be a bit of nuance also applied. What I mean by that, I was born in the UK. I depending on who you ask, I'm first or second generation, because my mum grew up partly here as well. And the thing is, we don't have the same type of black community that like the Americans have, if that makes sense. I don't. Whereas before, when I hadn't made the distinction, I guess this was before I started writing my book, I just saw it as one black mass. But then when I started to look a bit more closely and at the finer details, if you will, I realized that it was a distinction. So my kind of estimations, if I go back to the 90s, sure, I felt more of a sense of a black community. But now that the numbers have increased in the UK, that's black people, but that there's far more variety of different black people, there's no unity anymore.
I totally agree, and that's why these shows are so important. But hold tight, let me shout out this super chat. Shout out to my man Dante Hemming for the $20 super chat. He said that naivety is not a virtue. Dr. Jordan Peterson, and I agree with that. I'm going to ask you a question, Diego F.A. Does there appear to be a universality of brotherhood in the UK and London or Britain, where Simon Hectic is?
Definitely.
And do you see the dismantling of masculinity or heteronormative masculinity in the UK or London, wherever you're located?
I would say yes, I definitely do. I would say, interestingly enough, so if I'm going to be, this is me giving you my anecdotal experience. I can't speak for everybody, right? But I would definitely say so. And I think, again, I think it's particularly acute for a lot of British Nigerians. Now, from having spoken to different people, and I've spoken to more people than I can count, a lot of the British Nigerians, their mums were not the only women in the dad's life, if that makes sense. It's either you have a situation where the dad's sort of the family relocated to the UK whenever they did, and the man kind of maintained a transnational existence where he was split between Nigeria and the UK, or he was predominantly in Nigeria. Partly that is because he had other families there. Sometimes, it might be that the woman was a side chick, or she was like the dad's true love, but the family didn't approve. There's all this kind of different dysfunctions. And so what I have found is that because of that absence of masculinity, there is quite a bit of, I've noticed that there's been more discord, in my opinion anyway, among black males, especially with the younger generations. It's like it's got worse. And a lot of the black guys look at other black guys through the lenses of bitter black females. So you've got, for example, it doesn't matter if you've got a black guy that's a very accomplished man, he's about something productive, he will still be, you have another sort of black guy that will try to almost chip away at his own masculinity. I look at that as a form of projection. And again, because of that identity crisis, you have people that think that complete strangers owe them, I guess, the room to be toxic, almost like a sponge for their toxicity. I definitely don't think that there's unity. I think, again, if we're talking about black UK people that might listen to Manosphere that share a like mind, there might be some unity there, but on a broader level, definitely not.
Let me shout out what Sweet Lulu Bean's saying. She's correct. I just got back from Brazil, and I posed the question. I'm going to do a show tomorrow. Well, it's not a show, it's a little short clip. But it says, is romanticism dead? And if it is dead, who killed it? Sweet Lulu Bean said, black men need to take advantage of people like you, taking them to countries where they can see natural culture and traditional black women. Black men need to go to countries where black men are respected and desire black women. Sweet Lulu Bean is from South Africa originally. I believe she's from the Hoysian people. And those women are or have more or less been conditioned to serve and respect their men because they're raised under patriarchal countries. And so one of the 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized, that's why you see the 7 on my shirt, is world travel. Simon, F.A., and also Mr. Ingram know it. When you see the world and you travel abroad, the women there don't give you a lot of status because they have not been infiltrated by liberal talking points. They're traditional because they're under masculine patriarchal countries. And so it becomes very sad and perplexing when men feel like they have to defer their power because they're not getting respect from the women that they want. And I tell men, the more you love yourself, the more you can break those bands asunder and you can start getting the outcomes that you want. When you hear men, F.A., Diego, ruminating, but also that rumination is due to their pain. Do women in the UK, Simon and F.A., try to shame you guys for ruminating and sharing your pain, or are they understanding? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, in my case, I don't think that they are particularly understanding. Maybe you might find the odd needle in a haystack who, might really sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Try to embrace, your pain and so on and so forth. Like I have, in my lifetime, I've come across a small handful, I appreciate them. But for the most part, no, they have that mindset of entitlement for the most part. And the idea that you're a utility. And like I said, now I know what I know, because there isn't a proper black community as there may have been a bit more of a couple of decades ago. Right. I don't feel that same type of obligation, if that makes sense. So for them, it's almost like compounded delusion, because again, with the black Americans, they have sort of more. When I say more of a shared experience, they've been together for a lot more generations. If that makes sense. In the UK, it's far more recent, but because of that Americanization, if you will, that mindset, they almost try to inherit the American experience and then project it onto me, and the shoe just doesn't fit. So not to digress, but I just thought I'd say this much: they try to weaponize the idea of is it feminism and patriarchy discourse, and it's complete nonsense, because if we're talking about these women in question, right, they try to justify that lack of compassion down to patriarchists not really deserving it. But I would say this much: in the UK, the black females, I'm talking particularly these sort of black, the more recent generations, they benefited off the pain and suffering of black males in the UK. So we've had a number of black men that have died, shall I say, off the back of racially motivated attacks, police deaths in police custody, and this culminated in 1981 when you had the Brixton riots, which obviously involved a number of different black guys. And what happened was the government issued a report stating that there was institutional racism and that they needed to look at implementing or creating a black middle class in order to be like a buffer against these sort of the more disaffected, poorer black people. Interestingly enough, they made a priority of it being female, predominantly black female middle class, but they weren't the ones that were being attacked. They weren't the ones that were being restricted from job opportunities, but they were the beneficiaries. And because most of them are revisionists and ahistorical, they don't know this. I've been reading this stuff for 6 years, so I can sort of pinpoint points in time. So the whole idea of patriarchy is dead on arrival, but because a lot of they do this thing where they're very insufferable and they don't want to have this discourse in good faith. And so off the back of that, well, some of the people, they'll read the book, someone will tell them something, they can't really shut them down because there's evidence, there's an abundance of evidence for it. But yeah, I just thought that I'd share that essentially is the state of play from my experience and from the experiences of many other guys that I've also interacted with. So,
well, listen, it's powerful that my content is getting to London. I would never thought in a million years that my content would get to London. So I know in London you call each other mates or chap. What do you call each other, mates or blokes?
Blokes is very 1980. That's a real old sort of archaic.
I think that's the point, though. I think that's the point. Yeah. That's a good point because, we have this sort of whole sort of this connection in terms of our communication, in terms of how we communicate with each other, and I think the brother that just spoke laid it down. Do you get
no doubt.
I mean?
No,
laid it down. Like
no doubt, brother.
I had a conversation. Like 2 months ago with someone, and as soon as I got on the panel, they were like, "Oh, you're from here." No, I'm not from here. We experience the same things, and there was a total disconnection in a sense that, you're from Europe, so therefore you have that sort of mind state. Right. No, we don't. We have been brought up to be linear with the American mind state. And my brother on the panel, if you want to disagree with me, please do. Like, the ladies we deal with are the ladies you deal with. Like,
he's 100%
straight up.
100%.
There's no banger about that. Like, I will get on a plane and travel over to NY, and they will have the same mind state that they would have over here. And it wouldn't matter where they came from, because that's what we are. We are a Western society, and we are black men in a Western society. And that's why we need to connect with each other, because we need that connection. If we disconnect with each other, we have a problem. We have a real problem, because we can speak the same language and we can discuss stuff. So why are we not taking the opportunity to actually do that? Why are we sort of just going, okay, that doesn't exist? It exists, right? So until 2 years ago, we were just butterflying around this situation. Get real. Are we gonna actually have a conversation? I'm having real conversations with real people right now, just based on what's happened. We've had a couple of real tough years, but at the same time, I've made so much genuine, real connections with people, and the growth that can happen from that over the next 5-10 years is immaculate in comparison to the last 10, 15 years that I've ever lived on my life, right? And my children, I play these videos that are not too horrible to my children. My children look at it and they go, daddy, oh, that's nice, daddy, oh, what's he saying, daddy, blah blah blah. I don't give what?
But the thing about it, brother, for a long time, there was because of the gynocentric nature of this country, there was really no space for men to vent their frustration.
Right.
So if any time you would ever say anything as a man, you'll be labeled a misogynist, you'll be labeled a woman hater because of the gynocracy. I know it's in London, I know it's here in America, like you said, it's the same. But these are the only spaces that we have now that men are to connect, because most people have to stay employed. I'm retired now. I just retired August 1st. So I say Kosher has an employment. He has clientele. So I just say what men think, because I don't have to really answer to any, in terms of maintain that balance. I'm just a respectful guy, so I won't go across. Like you have, what we have now is what a lot of black men is that what's happening now is with stagnation. We have a lot of men that are single, that are not taking part. Men respond to incentives. Mm-hmm. Right. And if this particular woman offers them misery, they're not going to buy. They may have sex with them, they may date them, they may, but especially these Gen Zers, they forget about it. They're not going to buy. That's why the marriage rates are so low. The marriage rates are like, 26% that Kevin Samuels was saying. Mm-hmm. But what you have now, and I'm sure in London, as it is in America, is the rebranding. I remember I was talking about, I don't want to put women in that context. There used to be this grocery store, Food Lion. Back in the 90s, they were dinged for selling the expired food. So what Food Lion used to do is get food from other grocery stores that were, ready at expiration date, and they rebrand it and sell it. Fortunately, Food Lion sold the food at a discount. But what these women are trying to do nowadays is sell us some rebranded Food Lion goods. And the guys are just not buying it. That's what April Ryan is. She's rebranded Food Lion food. I'm smart enough. I'm 47 years old. I look at April Ryan with 3 kids and grandma. April Mason, whatever her name is. And I'm not a buyer. And first of all, you're trying to charge full price for rebranded food. And what happens is a lot of these women that have not taken advantage of their youth, the time when they have passed up good men, and from the time they were 18 and up, they've passed up a lot of good, hardworking men. They bought into the feminism and the gynocracy. Now they're coming back, realizing that they need men, and they want to get married as they're getting close to these expiration dates, and they're trying to rebrand themselves and drive up the value. But we're the customers. Mm-hmm. Men are the customers. And if we don't allow this gynocracy to brainwash us into buying this, and we understand that our economic power, you have British citizenship, I have American citizenship, we have economic power, the globe is our choice. So I say relationship capitalism, that's my mentality. And you don't have to listen to these rebranded women that have not taken advantage of their youth. And like I said, as the brotherhood come together, and you listen to masculine men. Like I said, many men are unconscious simps because they've been beaten down by their moms and their grandmoms and raised in these single parent households. They've been, they've been made to believe that they have to accept less. They have to accept the April Masons of this world that rebranded food at full price. At least Food Lion sold it at a discount. They're trying to ask full price for that. So, and I think that's nonsense.
Well, it is nonsense, and that's why we're having these conversations, because we're trying to liberate. We're trying to liberate. We're trying to liberate.
I'm talking about women that's like rebranded Food Lion food, right? They're gonna get me, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna get about 10 emails in the morning. man. Come on. That's rebranded good. I mean, kosher. You know, at least they gave us a discount on that old food, lion food. That meat started to turn gray. You know, that milk don't look right. Look, they got some floaters in that milk. They at least sold it at a discount. These broads trying to sell that shit at brand new price. Now get out of here. Sell that shit to a fool. Hey, nobody.
Well, listen. A lot of guys are frustrated, man, and that's why we're having these conversations because masculine men won't. Listen. Marriage is an investment. And I did a clip recently about romanticism. And the question is romanticism, has it gone away? And I'm going to play that clip in a minute. But you blokes in London and the UK, make sure you blokes share my content. Make sure you blokes share my content.
For sure.
And don't eat that expired food, man. Expired food.
Right. Hold on.
I will. I've got to bounce though, but love you, bro.
Right, no doubt, brother.
I'm totally tuning. I'm into your stuff, and so's the whole of London. Apparently, we're trickling it down.
Right.
We're trickling it down, and you know, it's real. You know, next couple of years, we're gonna see it. We're going to see it.
Well, listen, we want to take this platform to a national stage. My man Ingram, you know, and other good brothers, man, he got a show. Go check out his YouTube channel, The Ingram Experience, too. But we're trying to grow. We're trying to get the message out. We don't hate women. I think the greatest sentiment is that we hate women, and we don't. We love women. Yeah. We just don't love the behaviors of some of the modern women.
We love women.
Right.
Yeah.
But you tell them
we love women like James Brown.
Kosher.
Like,
respond to that comment. You say, the Casual Observer wrote, April Mason said that a black man is not worth a damn unless he's making 7 or 8 figures. That's we talked about conditional femininity.
Conditional femininity, right.
Ridiculous, okay? Okay, here's a woman that's been married before, 3 kids, 46 years old, right? The men don't come into their own until they get into their 30s and their 40s. Our value is an earned value. I'm at 47 now. I'm valued whatever I'm valued because I have had to work and earn over these years. So I'm at that peak, right? Women, because they have a physical value, their physical body declines over time. It's like me as an athlete. I used to be a Division I college player one time.
Right.
Let me tell you something, man. I got above the rim and dunked the ball one day. I started worrying about how I was going to land because it is expired. So for me, the biggest problem is that an average man my age is making $50,000-$60,000 a year, right? He's an average man, but he's still a man at his peak, and he's a valuable man. Anywhere in the world, other than America, and maybe England or London or these westernized world with liberal policy, liberal principles. So that guy is a pretty valuable. An average guy is a valuable guy.
Right.
Very valuable.
Very valuable. Right.
April Mason is a below average woman.
Right.
That means she's unmarried, on her decline at 40.
And some say that she don't want to get married. Even if she don't want to get married, regardless she want to get married or not, she's still not as valuable as she was in her 20s. No. Because they try to equivocate the market value of a man and a woman. Men get better over time if they eat clean, work out, stack the money. An older man with money and status can get a younger woman easy if he's healthy. Now, we're not talking about a dusty guy that got health problems, diabetes, his damn foot is bought off. He's about to get his foot cut off. We're talking about men that work out, eat clean, take care of their bodies, and they know what their worth is. And so if men do that, they can get the top pickup, they can get the choices of women. And so my job is to empower men. That's why I'm glad, F.A. and Simon Hectic are listening to the show because men in the UK are having the same problems that we're having here in America. But I would have never thought.
Here's the thing, brother Kosher. Here's the thing. Here's a woman that is below average on a woman, but she's saying that in order for her to be in her feminine, a man has got to be making all this money and put her in a situation where she doesn't have to work and she can now be in her feminine. So basically it's conditional femininity.
Conditional femininity, right.
If you think about how absurd that is, here's a woman that's past her prime, less than average, if you're that way, you need to be making deals. You need to be bringing assets to the table. You need to be bringing femininity to the table. You need to be bringing everything, because you're coming to a man at a later age when you've been alpha imprinted by these masculine. There's a bunch of guys that have pounded you up. You've been on the carousel for a long time. The wear and tear is there. The wear and tear on you, it's like you asking somebody to pay full price for a vehicle with 400,000 miles on it. That's ridiculous. You better make some deals. Unacceptable. And that's only tolerated in this country, in these Western countries, or these liberal countries. I mean, who would pay full price for something with 400,000 miles on it? You know, you've been brand new sticker. He's charging a brand new sticker price. You know, nobody's paying that. Only a simp would pay that price, or would sacrifice that money.
We accept it though. That's the issue.
Right.
You know, there are I mean, there's a percentage of women that are out there doing this sort of stuff, media attention, blah blah blah. Who controls the media? There are a percentage of good women out there, and I've experienced that. And sometimes, like, there's a lot of pullback on stuff I say, because it's like, because there are good. I mean, you must know, like, that's the way you're talking, because it's at the end of the day, it's bizarre to you when you see this stuff. Like when you go on IG and when you see all this stuff and all this sports stuff and people talking bullcrap and F and blah blah blah, it's just like you have experienced a good woman. Like you must have experienced a good woman to understand.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That this stuff that's being put out is bullshucks. You know what I'm saying? Because I know, like whether like I have been in a relationship, or I have gratitude for my marriage, right? Although it didn't, it came to a conclusion. I don't know if it did come to a conclusion, because it may not have come to a conclusion. I could get remarried. There's things that go on in the world where it's just there's this linear sort of thought process that's put out there, and it's like, oh, this is that. A and B, black and white, 2 and 2 is 4, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. That's not necessarily how the world works out. Okay, sometimes, and maybe it may be a thing in this new age with these new thoughts and these new processes that we turn around and go, there's a halfway line. Maybe that's the discussion. Because sometimes people, get drawn into things, and it's all good and it serves a purpose. And it's like, okay, but now you got to let go of it, okay? Now we need to have a new discussion, because you need to evolve and grow, right? Things do not, you plant something and then it's like, okay, cool. But the flower's been planted. You take that out of the grass, and you bring it into your home, and it's like something else crops up, and we need to discover something else to grow something else. Okay, so I don't want to bring up names, but Courtney's a prime example of that. People need to grow. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, just once in a blue moon. I'll get on, not all the time.
Well, why did you say? What made you say her? I'm curious.
Because she's beautiful. I think that the way, like just her. I think it's very, there's certain times in life, where certain people crop up. And it's like, damn, like she's interesting or he's interesting, I mean, but there's a linear perspective, and
right.
You get the basics, but it's like she has something that I've never seen in my life. And I think when we grow up, like as children, sometimes like you go through education, that thing. I'm an educator, so it's like you go through primary, secondary, college, university, and you're programmed to do things in a certain type of way, and then you go out into life, okay? And then there's certain people in your realm that sort of will help you. You're lucky to get a mentor, okay? So with Courtney, she went onto the Kevin Samuel show initially, not knowing anything about anything, but she put herself out there, right? So, and then from that, she was able to sort of maneuver to a point where she is now speaking, not from, oh yeah, I'm a feminist, this, that, the other, but it's just bringing herself out there, and being something that a lot of young people can aspire to, especially my daughter. I'll say, look, listen to that woman, because
which Courtney are we talking about, you guys? Not the Courtney from the Lapeef show, right?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
That's Courtney. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure we had it correct, because I don't want to cut you off. Sorry, brother, but what happens a lot of times? What happens a lot of times in these male spaces, and a lot of females in these male spaces, is that, and I've listened to Courtney's dialogue, and I've seen her interaction with Anton and the rest of the people on that show, and I think what happens a lot of times in these male spaces is that when you have a marriage rate in the Black community of 26%, okay, women watch male spaces, and they understand. They're not dumb. They understand that you have to conform to a certain dialogue. That's why you don't really see. You didn't. If April Mason wasn't triggered, many men would think that April Mason was advocating for men. Because what happens is she says 99, maybe 80%. You mix in the truth, you hide your real agenda. And I think the biggest issue for a lot of women is they conform, that condition, that I didn't want to say fake femininity, but to get married is what their objective is. Because men's issue involve divorce, custody laws, child custody laws, all these things. Those women never really talk about that. Because a woman marrying an hardworking, average, good man as they're getting older, it's like winning the lottery. Marriage has a lot of value, because a lot of women shame each other for marriage. You ain't got a man, you ain't got a marriage, no matter how successful women are. So it's a symbol, it's a status, it's an achievement. And when men are not marrying, it creates a panic, because we're not giving up that value, which is numbers are very low and statistics are going down. So I think you're going to have a lot of chameleons in this space that say what men want to hear, but they're not really interested in men's issues. So you got to be careful of these chameleons. But they really, what happens is the way you find out is when they get triggered. Like April gets triggered, like she's coming after Kevin Samuels in the lead tonight. Courtney, you got triggered by, somebody on the show, Lulu Bean, I believe. And then you see that true nature. The deception of this is this, and I'm not going to talk. If somebody falls for this fake femininity, you end up marrying this woman who was not raised to be a feminine woman, not raised to be traditional. A year or two into the scam, her true self comes out, because she's never cultured this way. But remember, when you marry somebody, you marry their family as well. And whatever their aunts, their grandmoms, their friends, those are who those women are talking to every day. They're encouraging them, because remember, traditional women are reinforced by their culture, their grandmom or whatever in other countries. So a year or two you're invested in this, and this person brings that masculine energy back. You're end up in a situation where you're married to a radical feminist, because that was this woman's nature, and that's who she's been raised to be, and that's who the women in her family support. And now
I don't know. I got to push back on that. I'm sorry.
but you know what though?
But that's I do think that's another. I do think that's another conversation. To be honest.
No. You're fine. You're fine, Simon Hectic. Because I think Ingram is looking at it from a more cerebral perspective, but you're looking at it from the hope perspective. And I'm gonna talk about the chameleon effect, because I would say, dear women, dear Courtney, dear American women, and also dear chameleons, There are men like Simon Hector that are looking for the greater good in you. They don't want to see the chameleon effect. But a wise elder like the Ingram think it's a facade. That's why men go to these schema afflictions and they snap, because they feel like a lot of times the women are not being true, adhering to their true nature. What's up, Henri Dantes? I believe you're from England too, right, brother? How you doing, sir?
No, I'm not from England. I'm not from England at all, but I've been to London many times. We normally go every year. Edgware, which is in London or just outside of London.
Okay, all right. So Dante, what do you get from the conversation, real quick? And we're talking about the force, because the force is necessary for this 8 stages of group therapy. And one of the main key stages, and we're going to end the stream soon because it's going into 3 hours. I got to start cutting these streams at 2. But we're talking about the universality of the brotherhood. The universality of the brotherhood means that all men are beginning to see the same issues. We got brothers like F.A., Diago F.A. in London, the UK. He's seen it. We got Simon Hector. He's seen it. Ingram has seen it. And we're beginning to compare the notes. What are you seeing, not only from this show that's relevant, but in general as it relates to the deceptive nature of the modern women, the modern woman? Because many men were advocating, and I knew April Mason had some shenanigans with her. I took it with a grain of salt. But now she's accosting the lead attorney, Kevin Samuels, and that's been hot off the press. But what are you guys thinking about it, real quick?
Well, one of the things that that's being more and more obvious to me, you can label it red pill, you can label it blue pill. Certain things make sense and some things don't make any sense at all. Mm-hmm. When I'm faced with a certain decision I have to make, mm-hmm. I don't have the luxury a lot of times to input how I feel about it, right? I don't have the luxury to do that. And how I'm faced with a lot of things, I think I shared this with you before, is that I'll give you the space to apply any emotion you want to have about it. Okay, but we're not going to make it our address, mm-hmm. right? Some things make sense, some things don't make sense. And I came to that conclusion, understanding who I was and the environment and the people in my environment, the things and the people around me. Mm-hmm. You know, so, I mean, that's one of the things. And once I came to that conclusion, even going back in my own history, because I kind of went through something a few years ago, and looking at how I came to think the way I think, is it because of a gynocracy I grew up in. Mm-hmm. I think I shared this with you before, where the whole attitude was happy wife, happy life. You can't argue them, don't argue with them, let them have their way, regardless if the person was running or the like, say, for example, love my mother to death, God makes you rest in power. Mm-hmm. You know, regardless of not whether she was running into the ground or not, mm-hmm. right? And coming to that, you know, understanding about why I was making some of the decisions I was making, why I was drawing the people to my life that I was drawing to my life, you know, and then sharing it with my family. Look, and they agree with me on what was being seen, what was seen. They agree with me on the experience. But because of the gynocracy from the women's standpoint and the male standpoint, they just would not accept it. For whatever reason. Right. Even if it means saving yourself and the entire family in this situation, mm-hmm. or in this conversation, the entire Black community, whether it be in the country or outside of this country here. So that, to me, that's what's really odd that I don't get. You can say, okay, this is where a large amount of the problem is coming from. You can say, okay, your arm is causing the problem, but you want me to cut off my leg. Right. You know, a lot of the problems in the statistics point this way, so let's address it this way, mm-hmm. right? But you know, a lot of times, in my opinion, women don't want to address it. They don't want to address it that way.
When you said don't want to address it, what do you mean by that?
For example, we already know in reference to like 24%, for example, of Black women will get married, right? Mm-hmm. I live in a town or a city called Columbia, which is 20 miles west of Baltimore. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, right? The home of The Wire, if you will. Mm-hmm. And in Baltimore, there's been a lot of exposés on the news about the school system, mm-hmm. about crime, mm-hmm. and there's some commonalities there, mm-hmm. right? One of the main commonalities is the fact there's a lack of father. And this was something that was brought out on the news about the lack of fathers in the household. They also associate the financial stability or financial prowess of that particular community. Like, for example, a majority of the families have bad credit. They associated that. And there was one expose about there was this one kid who was about to graduate, and he only passed 4 classes in 4 years, and his GPA was a 1.9, and he was in the middle of his class.
Oh wow.
He was in the middle of his class, but 78 of those homes are the kids, that were majority in trouble, were home by single parents and women, all women. Now, what I'm saying here is, I'm not saying that they're the problem, but it sure it's kind of coming that way. You know what I mean? We need to focus on the problem, or at least the person with it, or a combination of both. We need to figure out what's the problem.
Well, we didn't have these issues, Dante, when women more or less maintained virtue. There was a time when virtue was very important. It appears that liberal movements like the sexual revolution begin this downward spiral that we see now. And it's to the point now that it's been very detrimental for a lot of women, because they brokered their true power, which was their virtue, and their ability to remain chaste for trying to be like liberal white women. And it's been to their detriment, and also to the detriment of the black community. And so, black men are having sex with them, that's a myth. But because there are many men that are not getting sex, a small percentage of men, or I'll say about 10 to 30% of the men are getting all the women. But there are a lot of men that are in sexless relationships, they don't even get sex because they're quote unquote average guys. But we tend to accost those men with the men that are getting sex by saying that 100% of men get 100% of sex in cooperation for women. And we know that's not true, because women by nature are hypergamous and they want the top tier men. And so these shows, guys, add a lot of clarity to the conversation. These shows are very important. Henri, let me ask you a question then. F.A., I want you guys, I'm going to end in a few minutes because we're going to 3 minutes and 17 seconds. What did you get from this show? And why do you think the brotherhood is so important? What did you get from this show, and why is the brotherhood so important, brother?
Even if it's just information, like I said, I get a lot of wisdom and a great perspective from you, Kosher. When I first saw you on King's Talk,
yes, sir.
I say, he sound like he has something I need to hear.
Thank you, man.
I need to hear it right now. And I think a lot of men, black or white, because I actually, even in my daily travels, I talk to white men. I actually experience some of the same things.
Same things, right?
The same things. I remember telling one brother, just real quick, this one white guy, I said, I saw something that was real familiar. So I walked over to him. I just simply said 2 words: "You matter." And he looked up at me, and all of a sudden just started unloading, just started sharing with me. I'm like, dude, you matter. And that's pretty much all I said to him. But anyway, you're a necessary coach, and I want to thank you for your message.
Well,
the panel as well.
You're right there. I appreciate you guys, man. This is a hard message to sell, but when you guys more or less share the content, it helps me stay motivated, because it's hard. You get a lot of, well, I'm not gonna say negative feedback. The feedback has been mostly positive, but you'll lose a few subscribers when you start telling the truth. And but I say it all for the brotherhood, because I'd rather have 5 good, faithful men, like in the military, only a few good men, than to have compadres that are not loyal to the cause of masculinity and the pain and the suffering of not only black men, but all men. So we're beginning to see a force awakening. We begin to see, if I was a Jedi, who was the black? I'm Master Yoda. I'm Master Yoda. I'm Master Yoda. The force is with you strong. I'm Master Yoda, man. I got my hood on, man. I'm representing. But like I said, man, these shows are important, man, because most men, when they go to therapy, many times don't get anything out of it, because they said the therapist was on the woman's side. And so, and that's why I try to tell therapy from a black man perspective, using clinical terms and clinical concepts. So Dante, man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Please share the content, man. Thank you. And I got some more fire show coming up soon, guys. I got a show called.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
You're right. I got another fire show coming up. So thank you again, man. And so we're gonna sign off in a minute, guys. This stream has gotten long. Lots of people are going to sleep too. It's about 25 listening. Thank you to the 25 that are listening. And thank you to Mika G. Heartless souls are she said heartless souls are meaningless. They have no true existence but to be destroyed of a living. I pray God give you a daughter of greater mercy and insight to understand. So real quick, F.A., and then Simon Hector, real quick, brother. What'd you get from this show, and tell me why it was beneficial to you?
Well, I'd say it's beneficial because, I was watching it from the start, well, near enough the start anyway, and you done a real breakdown, which, let's just say, I watched the interaction between the lead attorney and Kevin Samuels, and you know, it was like I said, I learned a lot from it. But then when you added your sort of commentary to it, it even enhanced it. So
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that I benefited from that. You know, it was real education. Obviously, some of these things, like for example, female nature. You know, I would say that I've let's just say I've learned a lot recently, and I don't deceive myself. So this was quite useful in really sort of reinforcing either some of the things I knew, and then also sort of learning new things, certainly new perspectives, you know. So yeah, I mean, this is not the first time I've listened to you, and it definitely won't be the last.
Well, listen, yes, sir, go ahead. Well, like I said, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you listening and sharing the content. My stream was sort of took a hit tonight. The lead attorney had a fire show. He was actually doing the show while we were streaming. So, you know, I'm a small YouTuber compared to him, but I'm going to keep fighting.
You're gonna grow.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep fighting, man. And you know, he's doing a good job pointing things out, but I'm doing it from a different perspective. So shout out to him, and shout out to Kevin Samuels. You know, and like I said, we might not agree on all things as men, but I do respect those brothers. They're doing a good job, and they're trying to give men the tools that they need to be successful. So shout out to them. Real quick, Effie, what did you get from the show, brother? No, that was Simon. Simon, what did you get from the show? Was that Simon that spoke, or was it Effie? I'm confused.
No, it was Diego.
Diego, okay. So Simon, real quick, what did you get from the show? And then Ingram, we're gonna sign off, man.
Sorry, real quick. I think what I take from everything is perspective, and knowledge and experience. So when I hear people like yourself, like, you know, I think it was like the other day where, like you said, like, you know, you're taking 3 hours out of your day to sort of give knowledge. And there's a time equation to that. And we need to be more respectful of that as black people, as men. Like in terms of pulling ourselves up. Any person that's coming up on this panel has a time equation. And I totally respect that. Even if it's a new person, someone that you don't know, you know, someone that's just pulling up on a channel, overall, given like time, it will show. You might not get it right now, but you will get it, because there's not everybody that's pulling up to the panel. So that's why I have total respect for anybody that comes up to the panel. That's why I've got so much respect for anyone who can actually pull off a YouTube stream, for example. That's crazy stuff. It's like, it's not that easy. Like, try it, dudes. Like, it's not that easy.
No, it's not easy at all, guys. And that's why I was talking to him for about 5 minutes. Ingram called me, and I didn't even realize it, and I was mute for about 5 minutes talking, because you're trying to do like 5 things at one time, and so you know, you're like the Wizard of Oz behind the scene.
Get into it. It's not. Try it.
It's not easy, man. It's not easy. That's why I tell.
Yeah. So like, some people call one person a godfather or God, you know, whatever. Like, I have total respect for the elders that come up, and young dudes out there that are listening. Pay attention, like, and that's all I can say, like, because you don't get the opportunity, and you will not really be pulling up unless you really wanted to listen to something, really. So, like, you know, you got to take it from your elders, and just take that game in, and appreciate it. I will plug in when I can in terms of the cash apps and all that sort of stuff. Certain transactions are easier than others, but it would be easier if we could just all bang on the email or have some sort of conversation in the background. And because this is early days, because as you know, from my perspective, from my understanding, this is not going to get any easier on the outside.
No.
Let's plug in, get together, be a community, be one. And I appreciate the ones that facilitate that.
No doubt. And that's part of the universality of brotherhood, man. That's part of that universality that I talked about. And it is needed. It's very much needed. So thank you, Simon. I appreciate it, brother. So real quick, Ingram, what did you get from the show, man? As we're about to sign off, what did you get from the show, and tell me how it was beneficial? And thank you for popping on, brother.
It's definitely beneficial because it exposes the gynocracy, and it also allows, it just shows that men can come together and build a community and help empower each other. If we support this masculine space, support your channel, support channels like yours that actually speak to men and men's interests, and try to show men their value, is what's the biggest thing is. Because I think one of the biggest problems that we have in this country is for the hardworking men and women, the hardworking brothers out here, particularly, is that their value has been attacked so much. And I think we need to raise the price on black men. Black men are valuable. Black men are worth more than what people are trying to make you believe you are. Your value is great. And I think that's the main message you get from this show. Black men are valuable. We're valuable globally, and we need to understand our value and demand the standards that come with that value.
Right.
We love our moms, we love our aunts, we love our grandmoms, but we're not obligated to be, to take less or accept things like conditional femininity and other trash that they try to sell to us.
Right.
So that's what that's what I get from this show. And like I always say with everybody, it does sound selfish, but nobody takes care of you like you. And you start believing something else, you're going to end up in a world of hurt. If you're not listening to masculine men like the kosher, you're listening to these guys who subjugate themselves for, to pander to the gynocracy. You're never going to get the truth.
Right. No, I totally agree, man. And that's why I do what I do. I'm a man before I'm a therapist. And I think people like kumbaya therapists that tell them what they want to hear. But this is about male empowerment because, as I said earlier, many of the men in these spaces that are triggered, they are triggered and by proxy to the pain that they went through. So when they see the same gesticulation, some of the women on the panel, they get triggered. That's why they cuss and say some of the things they're saying, because they've been triggered and they have not wholly healed. Should they heal and not stay in that place forever? Yes, they should try to get to a place to heal. But the trauma and the depths of that trauma is not all the same. So we can't generalize the trauma of all men as the same. Every man must go through his level of trauma, but we don't know the level of pain and trauma that every man has been through. So that's what I do. But guys, we're about to sign off in a minute. Like I said, it's been a good show. And like I said, I love you guys. It's 19 to the 19 guys that are listening. We're small in numbers, but we will get stronger and stronger, guys, if you share this content. Shout out to the Ingram Experience. Thank him for such a nice expose. Thank the Ingram Experience. My man, Henri Dantes. Thank you, brother. And also thank you, Diego Efe. And like I said, this has been another classic. We're about to sign off in a minute, guys. And once again, guys, this has been a good show. So as I told you guys in the past, thank you, Ingram, there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized, and understanding female psychology is one of them. The force is strong when men can work together and when men can set aside their egos for the greater good of the brotherhood. This has been another great show. And it more or less talked about the force and why men should work together as a team and why men should set aside their petty differences for the greater good of masculinity. Be well. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Be well.
highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Any day could've been dead. High school price on my head. Paranoid lying in my bed. Pray to God they don't turn my shirt cherry. I was lost, didn't know me. Introduced myself to codeine. 6 months was a dope fiend. Philly didn't even know things. There was a low me. Swear to God it would've owed me. Everything you ever told me. Everything you ever showed me. I forgot it. Caused me drama. I used to stay on one. Now I changed on them. The highs with the lows. That's life these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Hit the highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. I just saw Jizzy got a plane. Guess that's what he meant when he said nothing was the same. Lately I've been grounded, energizing off the pain. Some things gon' change, I'm just soaking up the game. Through the mud, out the rain, like I remember all those same nights. Now I'm on top, no stage fright. Now I'm on go, no brake lights. Hit the pedal, hit the engine roar. No fear like a matador. Breaking trends and I'm making more. Going up, climbing ladders more. I can't be stopped. Now I do what I want. Real, no front. All the way to the top. Highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't it out. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Told him, baby, meet me at the bank. Told him, mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for him, baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you can never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop, pop 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Plate full, belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't eat off. I keep God first. I see evil, I evil when I converse. Now today say, this how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, vintage friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peep, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like. Neighborhood be the name. Neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me. Neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance. Neighborhood do the deal. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. On my own, no fixer. I'm gon' ball, no picker. That I ate those, they live for. Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats from Spitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. Full plates, big steaks, my dinner. Flip that, Canal Street. Flip that, last week. Old money, this week. New racks, never buy none more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stunning in your foreign car. You keep riding rental tax. Ew. Heard you roll the other lean, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, this pocket chick. Rubber bands on my arm, this is not for play. I put 20 on the crib while you cop a chain. I know they hated or love it. You know I love when they hate it. Last year was living basic. Nah. Haters on the other side. 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some maintenance with me. Made it through some evil times. Late night on some demon time. Pour the Sprite, I need a line. I can't lock it, sweet line. Free time. Brainstorm, you cannot swim with your chains on. I can see none with the lights off. Cap, you been the main one.